How's it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Happy holiday week if you're in the United States, because it's Thanksgiving. I'm very thankful for the days off.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing today? I'm going to send a message live.
So today is the worst day of my life because I left a bag of purchased groceries at the grocery store.
What? That's terrible.
Yeah. So frankly, it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark for me right now, and I'm hoping that this podcast will give me something to hold on to.
You're really depressing me there. The audio stream current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. Well, why?
The stream looks extremely good, actually.
Cool. That's awesome, Tasarwat. Oh, thank you, Watbo. That's
Awesome.
Very nice of you. What's up, David?
Thank you, David. That's what I was going for.
Hey guys, question for you. How are our levels? Because someone pointed out that on the book club that Matt was considerably louder than I was, and I think I've got that straightened out. But
check. Uh-oh. Check.
Oh, I just connected the dots about what you were doing with the grocery thing, like just now. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll give you a pause of between 10 and 30 seconds for each statement that I make today.
Great. That'll be perfect. And then we'll just trim all that out.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, there was some weird stuff going on with my audio. So, cool. I can actually I can make Matt just go boop, boop, just a little bit. Okay. Cool. Are you ready, sir?
I think so.
Okay. Let's click record.
Recording.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. It's still a little bit quieter than I normally am. I don't know. It'll be fine.
It'll all bounce out.
Okay. It really doesn't matter for the actual end episode because I'm going to mix them together at the same decibel anyway. Right. But enjoy the show, everybody, and we'll see you after. Let's do a moment of silence. All right, let's do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and if I were a Titan, my name would be Dolus, god of deception.
And mine would be Aphrodite.
What?
Goddess of containment foam.
How?
Aphros actually means foam. It's from the foam of Uranus's severed genitals when they were thrown in the sea by his son Cronus.
Can you just start the show?
Look it up. This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of legendary naming, hilarious and disturbing fireside chats, and alien-based death powers as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week on the show, we are fully exposed to Arc 18 Radiation with chapters 18.2 and 18.3. Big Boy Legend explains the situation and name drops all the Titans he knows. Real cool, Legend. Then Victoria and her various algorithmically decided team head to the old fallen encampment and have some important moments of bonding and conversation before they head out to confront some Titans. Matt, what did you think of these two chapters?
Well, I mean, a great beginning to this arc. I mean, obviously 18.1 was last week, but overall this is the, setting up of what the conflict is going to be for the coming arc. In 18.2, we get this big meeting where we establish what the threats are. We get some background about each of them and what we can expect going forward. And then 18.3 is this really very, very interesting chapter of, there's always kind of the characters touch base with each other chapter toward the beginning of these arcs. That's kind of the structure. But this one is doing some very interesting things with that particular part of the structure, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also kind of like you're right that we do these touching base at the beginning of arcs thing. This feels like the touching base at the beginning of an act thing, as in the final act. This is possibly, I mean, maybe not, but possibly one of the last moments our characters are going to get to just chill with each other before we approach the climax of this story. And we're seeing them all kind of take advantage of that. At least the book is taking advantage of that being one of the final moments to really have characters ping off each other. It's a huge scene, right? Like, I think you point this out in the notes as we were talking about, as we were going through the chapter, but there's like 30 characters, it feels like, all in the one scene, all talking amongst themselves at the same time.
It's almost everyone that we care about in the story on a personal level,
And also Torso.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got him.
Well, and the people who we don't care about just kind of wander off. So
true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into this. So we open up with 18.2. And, so as we start out, I guess I'll just remark that I really thought that a big chunk of this arc was going to be a long and complex planning and negotiating meeting between all these different Cape groups that were present in this room. And I was actually pretty surprised that this meeting was over as quickly as it is. It's basically like half of this chapter. And I was also surprised that Victoria's whole family is here and she doesn't say a word to any of them. There's no Amy interaction. There's no Carol interaction. There's like a passing mention of Uncle Mike being here, and then she just leaves. So I thought that was interesting, considering like you said, everything else about this feels like it's culminating toward the end. So I was a bit surprised that there wasn't like a touching base there.
Yeah, I think I understand what you meant. Like, when I first read this in your notes, I was like, really? You were kind of surprised? That I expect Victoria to avoid her family when at all possible. But in the framing of this being the last moment before the end, that makes a lot of sense. I think the reason why, if I had to guess, would be because the end of the story goes through Victoria's family, one way or the other. So they don't need maybe this moment of like low-key talking amongst themselves before we move into the climax, because they will be the climax. So that would be my guess on that. But yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't expect the whole arc or a big part of the arc to be this meeting. I expected we'd get into it because I think things are moving to start a little faster, but I was surprised that it was just this one chapter. I think I was with you on that. I saw this as something that like maybe extends out a couple chapters, and like we're cutting in and out to different moments. Maybe Wildbow does something with time shifts, or specifically cutting back to moments of meetings that he's done before in this book. But no, this is pretty straightforward, laying out the information section.
I think, like you said earlier, the velocity of things is ramping up, and so there's just we're not able now, pacing wise, to slow down and have a long meeting. It has to be like, all right, this is what the situation is. Everybody get out there.
Yeah, and I mean that's true, metatextually, but I think it's absolutely true in the story as well. I mean, that's kind of what Victoria says about the meeting. It's like, the reason Legend's good at this is because he's good at just getting facts straight to the point, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, enough about what didn't happen. As we get into this meeting, Legend, like you said, leads the meeting. He lays out the current situation, basically fills in the details that we don't know, and then connects those details to the framework as we do understand it.
Yeah, and I love this kind of whole thing starts off on Victoria kind of ruminating on Legend and what kind of person he is, like what he is and isn't to the people. He's respected because he's earned that respect. Like, I think the sentence Victoria says is he's been in more like end of the world crisis situations than other Capes have been in the field total. And so even if he's got this questionable past, this stuff with Cauldron, he's just generally so well respected that everything that he said comes off as straight. It's just a fact, no room for manipulation, no room for the skeptic to wonder if he was being deceptive. It's just filling everyone in. And I think metatextually, this is the book telling us this as well, right? This section is not trying to trick you. This is just we're laying out the facts. Here are the Titans. Here are their names. Here are their powers. We're laying out our understanding as we know it. And that doesn't mean that the Wardens can't be wrong about the stuff. We're going to talk about what they think is going on and how you and I maybe think that they're not right about that. But it does say that, like, there's no manipulation going on here. Take this as fact. Don't chocolify this.
Yeah.
I think the Legend serves both that role in and out of the story.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's funny you mentioned him having a questionable past, and I'm literally going through my head like what characters in this story don't have something of a questionable past?
True. Very true.
So I think at this point in time, considering where everything stands now, his being part of the Cauldron conspiracy is sort of inconsequential compared to everything else that's happened since then.
Gosh, yeah, that was like 20 crises ago, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. So one key piece of information that we understand pretty well by now, but now has been made explicit to the characters as well as to us, is that the tightening happens to people who were in danger of losing touch or struggling.
Yeah, and I think you're right that this is something the book had kind of hinted at in the last couple chapters, but like I just talked about with everything else that's going on, having this character serving as the kind of unquestioned exposition guy confirms it for us. And interestingly enough, I think this is something that is rather important. Legend reinforces the "and" here in this statement. It's not just capes who are struggling or losing touch, it's capes who are struggling and who are losing touch, and we're in the proximity of the collapse of reality, right? So there's not a chance that anyone anywhere is just going to do this. They have to be, the proximity still matters. And this of course makes total sense, but it also is one of several beats throughout this chapter that reinforce this idea of, hey, if things start going bad, if you start feeling bad and things are going bad, get out of there, leave. Like I think we see Armstrong specifically say later in the chapter, if the damage starts spreading again, or if you get alerts, capes, especially capes who don't feel confident or capable, should immediately retreat. And so we've established this "and" factor, how it is both of those things. And so retreating could save you from this. And I wonder how many of our characters are actually going to listen to that when the time comes, because if I know something about these breakthrough people, they don't like retreating, especially when they're feeling not 100% themselves.
Yeah, yeah, especially our heroes. Like it's hard to imagine them being like, "All right, guys, I'm not doing so hot. I'm gonna bail."
Yeah.
Hard to imagine any of our friends doing that.
Yeah, I mean, especially like Kenzie, for example, whose idea of being on the front line, being out there, is one of the most important parts to her. I don't see her saying, "Okay, you're right. I'm not feeling good. I should step back."
Yeah, I think what we may be dancing around is the fact that Victoria is the least likely to retreat when she's feeling bad, because this whole book has been a sequence of events of her being just like emotionally thrown through the ringer and reacting by doubling down, basically.
Sometimes I just feel like I'm too mean to Victoria, and I just didn't want to. I just wanted to hint towards it without saying it. But yes, that's who I was talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to spend a lot of the next chapter talking about how she's not doing great. So
true.
Yeah. So we also get the down low on a number of the specific powers that these Titans have, which leads one to suspect that our heroes will eventually be fighting them in this arc.
Or attempting to fight them. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So one of the most fun elements of this chapter, I think, is the naming of the Titans. So we're going to go through all these. Fume Hood is Titan Eve, named by the Malfunctions. Contessa is Titan Fortuna, named by Legend.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I love the beat where the Malfunctions get to name their fallen friend. I think that's so great. And of course, Eve is perfect for Rotten Apple Titan. That's wonderful. It fits very well. And I wonder if we could make like an original sin comparison here. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. That's some people make their whole livelihood making comparisons like that.
That is true. That is true.
But
you could say that killing that pregnant lady was the original sin, and then she had to. I don't know.
Does that mean that Eve eating the apple was the inciting incident of the world?
I mean, yes, that's literally true. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, I never thought of it that way. So
but let's talk about Contessa, though.
Yeah,
because this is interesting, right? Legend has decided to name her Fortuna, which is her name.
Yeah.
And my guess is that very few people actually know that, right?
Yeah.
Like probably some of the higher echelon of Cauldron, us. Maybe that's it.
Maybe that's it, right? Yeah. I mean, who is left of the higher echelon of Cauldron? He's the only triumvirate member who's alive. I mean, Eidolon's ghost might know it.
That's true.
But yeah, it strikes me that he might literally be the last person who knows it.
Yeah.
I guess the number of boys might know it. I mean, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
I don't
might.
know.
Yeah. And I mean, this is it's this person he doesn't call a friend. He specifically avoids calling her a friend, but kind of publicly honors her contribution to Gold Morning while also admitting that she did a bunch of terrible stuff on the same time. So I don't know. There's a bit of respect and loss here that's evident in choosing this name.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it here, but it's almost like he's saying she is the whatever choice she made, she's now true to herself again. Which I'm going with that because that's kind of
Oh, I like that.
our theory is that maybe she didn't necessarily know that she was going to get tightened and effectively die, but she was trying to go back onto the path of being Fortuna and less Contessa, and so he's honoring her by remarking on that. I guess, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
So Wabo never misses an opportunity to tap that sweet, sweet Simurgh terror. We have this moment. The Simurgh was perched on her shoulder. The video feed fritzed momentarily, and I could see faces in the crowd flinch. Seriously, though, Simurgh has reached the status of like the Chekhov's gun that has been up there so long, so prominently, for so many words that you forget what a gun is and what it's for.
Yeah, I think at this point that the phrase Chekhov's gun just doesn't mean anything anymore. We should just call it Seamerging at this point. And I like this because there are still a few unanswered questions waiting for us in this novel, right? That it hasn't revealed its entire hand yet, but I can't think of one quite as fascinating to me as what the hell has this winged lady been up to? And I think that's mostly because we don't even know what her goals are. Like generally we have these shards and these shards are tightening and we have a general basic understanding of what their goal is, right? But this thing, what does the Seamerg want? And how is what she's doing right now move her towards what she wants more? Like it's just this blank space in the book that we have no. I mean, we could make like speculation on it based on what she was doing at the end of the last book, but I mean that's all it would be. Like it's hard to know what she's doing without knowing what she even wants in the first place, and that is one big open mystery of the story.
Yeah, if you had to guess at it, it would be something like she wants to maintain the status quo where whatever shard is in control of her gets to keep, gets to stick around. I don't know exactly because that's the thing is we very kind of intentionally severed that connection where, oh, the Endbringers, they just want to keep fighting Eidolon.
Right.
They did help kill Scion. For some reason. Yeah, I mean that's a great point. Like we could say because they want to maintain the status quo, but there's equally good explanations for why they would do that, I think.
Right. I mean, the only tangible bit of evidence we have is that she was attempting, we think, to make another Eidolon, right?
Yeah.
And that's all we know. And again, we could speculate out from that as to what her wants are, but that's all it would be. It would be speculation. It is this big old black spot on the book right now that we just can't fill in with any color yet because we just don't know anything.
Yeah. So we see that the heroes think Contessa is trying to create a network in order to expand the damage further. And this chapter and the next chapter will have a lot to do with this idea that the heroes are trying to stop her from creating this network. My interpretation is that Contessa and her little network are on the side of humanity, and if they need to spread the cracks, then they're at least trying to do something helpful there, and that either the heroes don't know this or don't trust this. I could be completely off base here. I'm basically envisioning this as a situation where the heroes are actually hurting the people who are trying to help them and don't know it. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's generally my take too. I've kind of in my head mentally like categorize them as people that I think are good Titan versus people that I think are bad Titan. There is something interesting happening here, though. At this part in the conversation, they mentioned that Contessa has networked with 3 other Titans. And I made the assumption the first time I read this, I was like, okay, well, definitely Eve, definitely Dauntless, and then one other, which we don't know yet. But then later, a little bit in the chapter, it makes this a lot more explicit. It says which Titans are specifically networking with which, right? And it says Dauntless and Eve, for sure. And then Fortuna, it has connections with uh, Bows, Victors, and Scenarios Titans, or like those ones specifically, no one else. And then we see Oberon and Augur also have connections as well. So I thought, based on what we read in Fume Hoods, that she was connecting to Fortuna, but it doesn't seem like it. So I don't know what this does as far as our hypothesis of Contessa's going to help, going to be good side, because I'm pretty confident that Dauntless and Fume Hood are trying to help do good generally.
Yeah, perhaps we could once again have this perspective where Contessa's network does want something like what Contessa thinks is for the best, but that doesn't line up with what Dauntless thinks is for the best.
Sure.
Or it could just be that Contessa really did lose herself, because this does seem to have diverged from what she thought would happen.
Yeah. Or Contessa's just just playing like playing the spy. She's going to go in, get those three under control, and then link them all together. I don't know. But it is interesting because it is not quite what I thought was going on. So we do know that Dauntless we don't know. We're an educated guess that Dauntless and Fume Hood Titans are on the same side and are generally on the side of good. And we've kind of seen this a little bit confirmed in the story. Like we saw that Eve was being defensive, like really only trying to protect herself and striking out against people trying to attack her. We know Dauntless has been just chilling for, I don't know, a month. How long has it been? A month. So we have some information in the book to reinforce that idea. But yeah, I think Fortuna remains a mystery.
Yeah. Random question. Like Dauntless is the only one who exists in every reality, right? Like,
yeah,
hasn't been mentioned if the other ones like penetrate between realities.
To my knowledge, that has not been mentioned.
That'd be I have no idea. I guess we just don't know.
I mean, I kind of figured they existed. I mean, they existed like where they exist. Shard space is there, right? So it's not reality per se. But I mean, to your point, like which reality would you need to go to get to them is a valid question.
Yeah.
I don't think they're in all of them. Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm popping up with questions that we can't answer right now. But
they're good questions to ask because now we will remember them when they are answered and say, "Oh yeah, we were wondering about that."
Yeah. So other observations, they don't seem to be aware that Titan Oberon is a fusion of Prancer and Moose.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's just Prancer. And very exciting, we finally get in-text confirmation that his name was Moose Knuckle officially. Not that we ever doubted this, but you know.
Yeah, it's really great. And I mean, it kind of makes sense because we see from the description that he's presenting kind of prancerly, right? Like he's got his big defining characteristic is the antlers that are kind of coming out of his head and down his back. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. Poor Moose. My guess, if I had to guess, my guess is that Oberon is going to be pretty important in the future, and I think he's going to join Team Good Titan. That's my guess. I mean, we see at the end of 18.3 that Eve and him are trying to make a connection, and the humans are like, "Oh crap, that's bad." But is it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just unsure. Titan Scotty is she's got an axe for a head, a flaming axe, an axe of fire
axe,
chopping implement. She teleports into maximum danger. That's what she does. I love this moment because as I was reading it, I was like, wouldn't this massive meeting of capes qualify as a candidate for maximum danger? And then Legend immediately says, while looking at the camera, don't worry, we've got our heaviest hitters engaging her now. Otherwise, she would be here already.
Yeah, it's great when Wildbow predicts your complaints.
Yeah,
as you're complaining them.
Exactly.
I'm gonna guess Scotty will be bad Titan side if we're picking sides.
I mean that
war
so far it definitely seems to just be like wantonly destructive, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So the Nemean Titan. Oh, by the way, I don't know how to pronounce any of these words. The Nemean Titan was formerly Victor, and as we talk about this Titan, Victoria goes on a little mental tangent about Victor, and I really want to talk about this because she has this anecdote And the anecdote is this whole little 2-paragraph short story about how Victor had victimized this poor software guy, drained his abilities. She chased Victor down, but he escaped. And it's all very dramatic. And then we learn the next paragraph that it was all bullshit, and all Victor really did in this scenario was participate in this software guy's insurance scam, and didn't hurt him at all. So, like, of course, then she lists a few other horrible things that Victor did actually do. So it's not like Victor is this misunderstood guy who never actually hurt anyone. But I just thought it was interesting and funny that the one incident where Victoria was actually involved and has firsthand experience was what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes to help understand the frustrations that Glory Girl felt, right? And why she was almost brutalized into brutality by the state of the world. It's just like, here's her one interaction with this guy that she knows is shit, and it was all just fake, and no one actually gets sufficiently punished, and like just no good was done in this whole interaction. This is really interesting though, this whole section with Victor, and I want to focus on this for a little bit, because when you combine this with what we saw of him in 17.z, it gets really interesting. Because Victoria hates this guy. Like, she's specifically like, fuck him. And she has good reason to, right? I think the things that she describes him doing are pretty horrific. Like, I don't even want to repeat them because it's really disturbing. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But Victor is the one that played by the rules and did all the right things in the ways that Scribe didn't, right? Victor's the one that made the public apology, that fully rejected his old beliefs and his old group, and did everything he was supposed to. He adopted a religion that he was using as to say, like, look how much I've changed. Now, we get a little hint from Scribe in 17.z that might be bullshit, like that she kind of hints that how he adopted this religion might just totally be bullshit and he doesn't believe any of it. But we don't actually know that for sure, and I think it would be very on par for Scribe to just assume that of someone, especially at the place she's in her recovery from all this stuff, assuming someone would just bullshit. We don't know. The point is, Victoria sees him as becoming a Titan, as kind of confirming that he never really changed, right? She says here, I fully believe that what he was now was a consequence of his old monstrousness, of doors he'd closed, weaknesses in his character he'd ignored in the course of imagining and even forcing weakness onto perceived others. And look, she could be right. I don't know. We're pretty sure, I think, that the Nemean Titan will not be on Team Good Titan, judging by how he immediately attacked all the capes around him as soon as he transformed. But doesn't this seem like an interesting way of thinking, right? I mean, that like,
yeah. Well, so I don't like to play is this character secretly a mirror to Victoria game with every single character. But when the guy's name is Victor and her name is Victoria, I can't help but think maybe there's some connections meant to be made, some kind of parallels. And like the wording she chooses, this is the result of doors he'd closed, weaknesses in his own character he'd ignored in the course of imagining, and even forcing weaknesses onto perceived others. Like, Victoria could be accused of that, right? I mean, maybe it's not the most airtight of cases, but she definitely ignores weaknesses in her own character.
Sure.
I think what she may be doing here in this exact moment is forcing weaknesses onto perceived others. Since like Victor's not a good dude. He's a bad dude, but
right.
But she's actually wrong about the reason why he went Titan here. Like, she just is. Like, we know that, basically. So
yeah, we got to see that like he was trying to reach out, like he was feeling lost and alone, and he had broken up with his girlfriend and was trying to reach out and rekindle with some of the members of his family, and got rejected from that and gave up. And yeah, I mean, like I don't want to spend all our time talking about, I think this guy's good, actually, because you're absolutely right. Absolutely not. But like, we get beats later in the story about how Tristan, like this story seems to be setting up the fact that Tristan is a very high risk of titanifying.
Yeah.
Will this be because of what he did? Will this be because of the monstrousness that he inflicted upon someone else a long time ago? Will it be because of weakness in his character? I don't think so. Like, I don't know, but I just think this is like a bad and dangerous way of thinking, to connect that event to this is because of the terrible person he was.
Yes, because again, not to repeat myself, but we pretty much know that this is because he felt very alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he felt alone was actually because he had rejected the white supremacist gangs and all of that stuff. So I mean, I really do think she's it's almost wishful thinking here.
Yeah.
As to like, oh, he went Titan because he's a bad guy. It's like, well, no, he went Titan because he was lonely, and which can happen to anyone, Victoria.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's just a stark comparison to go from an interlude where we see our point of view character Scribe, who is admittedly awful, like watch as he transforms into this thing and being like, no, we were family. Like, no, and to be this kind of devastating moment of failure to cut to Victoria saying, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the contrast there is very abrupt. And I think emphasizes, to me at least, like this, oh, whoa. That's that reaction surprising.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I do think this is kind of an important moment, actually. And I think we might even come back to it at some point.
There's also this beat that I didn't want to pass over, because there's a beat here where they're talking about Scenario, the Ashen Titan. And Victoria is kind of wondering to herself, well, why did this happen to her? She seemed confident and focused when I talked to her, but then the Warden seemed to have a hypothesis about Titans losing track of their own humanity or something. How did that connect? What didn't I know? And so she's trying to kind of solve the puzzle of why Scenario went Titan. And that is an unknown in our world, right? Like that's something not even we, the reader, really knows for sure. And it made me wonder if we're setting this up as a specific mystery that's going to end up mattering to the plot in the future. I don't know. It just seems like we draw this out very specifically here.
Well, I mean, I want to connect it back to what we were just talking about and say, again, draw out the specific language she used. She'd seemed confident and focused when I had talked to her. Okay, who else seems confident and focused pretty much all the time, no matter what's going on under the surface?
Man, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like here we have basically Victoria, like in almost in an uncharacteristically self-deceptive way, failing to see her similarities to these two people who just went Titan.
Yeah.
And like it's getting to the point where I'm like so sure she's gonna go Titan that it feels like it's gonna be a misdirect. Like
right.
but yeah, I mean we'll see, right? Like clearly we're supposed to be worried about her though, is I think the thing we can draw a line under.
The problem is I feel like the book's doing that with Tristan as well, right? I think it's like so obviously winking towards that I don't know.
And this could also apply to other people. True.
Yeah.
There's other people who are similar in this particular way. They seem put together, but actually they are isolated. Yeah. So poor Mr. Bao, our helpful guy, our helpful friend, is now Titan Ophion. He attacks with needles that travel huge distances and cause instant severe mutations.
Hooray!
Yeah. And then Hunter is named Titan Arachne.
I love these names. We're going to have to... We haven't done a name game in probably like 5 months, but we're going to do one at the end of this episode because
awesome.
These are all really good.
Yeah. So the Strange Titan fucks me up, man. Basically, it's like, yeah, we know there's a Stranger class Titan. That's it. We have no other information. It causes hallucinations, but maybe that's like a different Titan that's near it. For all we have, like we don't know. Have fun with that one.
Yeah, it could be 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 1. Yay. Do you think one or both of them could be the character Blindside? I had someone tweet that at me when I was doing my live tweet, so I guess that's a theory amongst the community. We haven't seen that guy in a long time, so could be.
Did not occur to me, but I'm hard pressed to think of any other powerful strangers that have been in the story. And I mean, these all don't have to be people we've met. Axehead is not someone that we've met, but
sure.
It would feel kind of satisfying if it was Blindside.
I mean, it is like the whole we can't look at it thing seems like a specific reference, but I don't know. It could not be. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I put better than even odds that it is, but
cool.
Yeah, we'll see. Augur, the newest Titan, hasn't been given a Titan name yet, but he's apparently fighting the Machine Army right now, which I guess is good.
Hell yeah, it's good, and he's linked with Prancy Moose, so I'm gonna go ahead and be positive about that one.
Okay.
I don't know if that's right, but that's what I'm trying to trying to do here.
Everybody place your bets on what team the Titans are on.
Before we moved on from this, I wanted to focus on one thing we see in this section that I think we like knew about before, but the text has never said it explicitly here, and I found it fascinating, is this idea that none of the Titans have faces. Victoria points this out when describing the Ashen Titan. She says, a woman in light gray with hair like fire, like the rest of the Titans, she had no face. And this is really interesting to me because we've talked at just because in this book we've talked about masks and faces so much in this story, and then we have these Titans, these huge monstrous versions of people who have lost their way and lost their humanity. And how is that represented? How is losing your humanity represented? Well, you don't have a face anymore. Even the ones that look vaguely humanoid don't have a face anymore. And I just love that as this little detail to sell this general message.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like they're just a mask now, and their whole form is now the mask. Their whole body rather than just their face, and because I mean we've known forever that the entities consider the mask to be very important. They absorb part of that, just as the host absorbs aspects of the shard, and now that's all that's left. It's a really, really cool visual, and yeah, it's just really cool visual way of communicating that information. I love it. So then Chevalier takes over the briefing. He passes it off to Armstrong and Victoria relatively quickly. He's a man of few words.
Mm-hmm.
Small beat here. Maybe it doesn't mean anything, but Victoria has opinions about Epios's tinker capabilities. She kind of points out that Epios has kind of fumbled some things recently, and I felt this suspicion that like maybe Epios is messing some things up on purpose. Like they have some kind of agenda. I don't know if this is going to go anywhere though. It just kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, you might be in chocolate on this one. I do. I mean, like the background here is that it was Epios's algorithm that was pairing people together while Victoria was benched. And Victoria specifically notes that Capricorn and Precipice were put with the Shepherds and Sveta was put with the Irregulars. So, things that probably would be bad if you used your brain, like those matchups wouldn't be good, but it seems like the algorithm is putting teams together based on history and maybe like not like the details of that history. Like Sveta and Egg know each other. Yeah, it's fine. Right. It could just be incompetence. Like there could be something else going on here. I think that's an interesting thought. We should keep that in the back of our heads as we go forward. But it could just be another ding against the warden's competency, right? Like we have this possible subtextual undercurrent that we're exploring how actually incompetent this organization is, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
And then ultimately everything turned out fine. I mean not literally 100% fine, but I don't think anyone died or was grievously injured in that encounter. So despite the fact that people were put with people who rubbed them wrong, no one died. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it puts Victoria with like every person she cares about too. Like every group, like in the future, when we break out of this meeting and she goes off with a group, it's assumingly that algorithm that put all the characters we love together. And also we see it puts her. It shows and she's speculating on this, but it makes sense that it shows the location they're going to specifically because it's close to the patrol block that Victoria knew, all those people that she knew, which is how she gets all those sweet guns. So it seems like it's working out.
Yeah. So I love this whole sequence where Victoria is giving her speech as someone who gives a lot of presentations, some of them to relatively large groups. I felt very seen by this, like the self-talk she engages in, the awareness of the physical nervousness as she approaches the moment of it, the awareness of the stakes of doing a bad job. It all just felt very like, yes, this is exactly what it's like, precisely what it's like to get ready to prepare to walk up for it and then to start giving a presentation or a talk or whatever. Sure.
And everyone will be shocked to learn that I love speaking publicly. But I still get the pre-speech nervousness. Yeah. Like even if you love talking in front of people and love being the center of attention like I do, I still think there's nerves that happen when you have to actually step up. And so I related to that a lot too. I mean, it is very much a reminder of how conscious and aware she is of her presentation, Like that is just something that is innate to Victoria. It is innate to Victoria because it was instilled in her by her mother. And I love that in this moment, we do see her look towards her mother, who is like beaming with pride. She's seeing her daughter up there on the stage, addressing this collection of capes. And it's like, this is everything I ever wanted for my daughter right here. Which is, I mean, not great.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make me happy to see Carol like happy.
I mean,
in this regard.
Yeah, right. I mean, in this particular situation, it's like, yeah, we're all gonna go have to fight these, basically worse than Inbringer things, and kind of an inappropriate time to be smiling, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and I just don't want Carol to feel like I did it right. I did it right because look where she is now. I did this. And I was like, no, she did this in spite of you, not because of you.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So, yeah, it is a good moment though. I really like, you're absolutely right. Like the straight back, good posture, like thinking over what she has to say. It's a really good moment.
Yeah. So Victoria's speech mostly concerns the dangers of the shard world and hints strongly that you could probably enter that world through the black cracks in reality. She notes that people respond to her words with a degree of confusion, which is understandable because, I mean, this would all be pretty nonsense if we hadn't already read these events.
Yeah. I love the beat about confusion because it is such it's literally a different plane of existence. And the idea of just casually talking about this to people and them getting it would not be natural, right? Like, because remember, there's like this whole idea of the contradictory rise or slope of the plane, right? And so she's trying to communicate that like broadly, this idea to them of like, this place isn't like anything you've experienced before. And the images, the facets of yourself that you see in the reflections, all these things are such alien concepts that, yeah, people wouldn't just get this.
Yeah, I mean, she all kind of offhandedly says stuff like pause and reinterpret the landscape. And like, unless you already know what she's talking about, that you don't really like, there's no way you would get what she means by reinterpret the landscape.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And my favorite part of all this, though, is like, as much as she kind of argued with Defiant about what they did and if what they did was necessary and was it okay, she opens her speech with, yeah, don't do what we did. Definitely don't do that. That was dumb. That was super dumb. Don't do that. Yeah. I liked that. I think maybe a few days afterwards have made her realize that was pretty aggressive, and it worked out, but yeeks.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's certainly not a thing that she would want to do again, knowing what it entails. Yeah. So, yeah.
We also do learn that powers aren't disabled in shard space, just reduced, is the new bit of information we learn in the notes to Victoria's speech, which means, I mean, what this does is basically leave the door open for cool battles in shard space itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the back of my head, when we said specifically that powers don't work there, I was like, well, okay, the climax of the book can't take place here because no powers. Come on. But Wild Bow is basically allowing that door to exist. Whether he's planning for that eventuality or not, it is possible, the book says.
That was my thought as well. This we now know, hey, there's those black cracks everywhere. All you have to do is go into them, and then you're back in that domain where again, that's a domain where according to Victoria, you can affect the shards on a deeper level. Like if you damage a shard there, then you're basically damaging that parahuman's power. Stuff like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. So there's one more moment I want to touch on here before we wrap everything up in the meeting. After Victoria finishes her part of the speech, she's still standing up there as Armstrong talks on, and that's when she looks and sees her mom beaming at her, and she kind of ignores that. Well, she yells at herself about it first, and then calls herself a... What does she say? She says, felt like a fucking kid in the school choir looking for mom in the crowd. Fuck! Yeah. Which is a pretty, strong reaction. I think it shows her nervousness. But then she sees her team, and it's beautiful. This beautiful paragraph here where it says, I saw my team, my heroes. And then she kind of goes through and describes each one of their costumes. Some of them have changed slightly. She spends a lot of time talking about Lookout's costume and how the mask is a little creepy and her coloring is closer to Heartbroken than it was before, and we're just laying a lot of interesting groundwork on what's going on with Kenzie stuff here, and how much of this is Heartbroken influence, and if that's good or not, and that's going to be something the book addresses directly later, but we're laying the groundwork for it here and just looking at what she's wearing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, she's definitely been a lot more teenagery, I would say, in these
Yeah.
in this last few chapters.
Yep.
Um, Another thing I noticed is like I don't remember what color Precipice costume used to be, but I didn't think it was white and silver with veins of gold. That's I don't. That's not what my mental image was. Maybe I'm just bad at having mental images. But
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't remember it because I am so bad at visualizing costumes and stuff. But when I read Veins of Gold, my gut reaction was, "Huh, that's new."
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true or not, but
it's a very hero look though.
Yeah,
I remember.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it used to be darker. But
I think you're right. I think
yeah.
you're right. But of course, Victoria is so absorbed talking about her team, her heroes, that she zones out. And we cut back to the information with Armstrong saying, "Are symptoms of increased instability and loss of self as the agent gains more ground. Monitor yourself and your teammates, and when in doubt, report your concerns." So, I mean, basically, this is the moment of the story where the character says, if you take anything away from this briefing at all, make it that.
Right.
And then our character didn't hear it at all.
Yeah.
Like, this feels like an important thing to have not heard.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Simpson, this is the panel you need to pay attention to if the plant begins to melt down. This
Yes.
one right here. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was laughing because the script here says, "What, Armstrong? What are the symptoms?" Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like it feels like we should know that. I mean, not just for Victoria specifically, but for everyone else. Like,
yeah.
The good thing I guess we can say here is that Victoria's whole team heard this, and maybe will recognize these symptoms in Victoria if this is truly what's happening, if her agent is gaining more ground on her. I'm still torn on that because it just seems like her shard, out of any of them, is the one that's much more comfortable being at chill, like, help out mode and not in take over and subsume you mode. But
yeah,
I don't know. We won't know because we don't know what the symptoms are because Victoria wasn't fucking paying attention.
Yeah, no, it wasn't important. It was more important to be stewing in her own angst.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is probably a symptom.
Yeah, what if missing this briefing,
right,
the most important part of the briefing, is a symptom?
Yeah. If you find yourself looking wistfully over your teammates, thinking about how much they've grown and they don't really need you anymore.
That's great.
Yeah. So at this point, Vicky touches base with the malfunctions briefly.
Yeah, and we see that they're not doing that well, which is unsurprising. Like, I think we get reinforced just how much they loved Fume Hood. Like, we had a pretty good idea by them choosing to stay with her as she's dying, but like they reinforce this with us is like, no, she was cool as hell. She's like the coolest adult I knew, type of thing. Like, they really, really liked her.
Yeah, right. And they seem really just, about as shaken by the events that happened as any normal teenagers would be, right?
Yeah.
Like it's awful. They're in really bad shape.
Yeah, I love when Carrie Added goes breaker form, like just very briefly, just for like a few seconds. And like now that we've gone through her interlude, we know kind of exactly what that is, right? That is one of her ways of like disassociating from the way that she feels and her problems. And we see her do it just briefly here.
Yeah, right. Disconnecting for a second. Yeah. But pulling herself back quickly too.
Yeah, I mean, the most important part of that is, yes, she pulls herself right back.
Yeah.
There is one thing that jumped out at me here, and I'm going to use this part to kind of talk about something that I saw throughout this entire chapter, is this idea of physical contact. And I think you and I have talked about this before in the book, but it's coming around again, and I think it's worth focusing on. One of the things Victoria does when she sees the malfunctions is she wants to give them hugs, because they look like they need some hugs, but she's not sure about their own personal rules, and she doesn't want to violate them in any way, which is respectful and nice. But I realized this moment that there is a continuing focus on physical touch throughout this chapter, and there's a bunch of little moments of it. Earlier in the book, or earlier in this chapter, Victoria notes that Armstrong gets her attention by like doing like a head gesture to her, and specifically notes that he doesn't touch her as many others would have done. So the book is kind of drawing attention to the fact that he chooses to do this way. And this could just be him knowing her background, or just him paying attention to how the whole Eric situation went down and realizing that, hey, don't touch her.
Yeah,
It's
he
bad.
didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we see in this moment that she wants to extend physical contact and it malfunctions, but is kind of uncertain about it. And then in a bit, when she gets back with her team, there's a lot of very specific physical contact. Like, the first thing she does is give Sveta a big old hug. She also hugs Tristan. She's like reaching out and holding people's hands. And all of this physical contact is Victoria extending support to others, right? I hugged. I reached out. I clapped a hand on his armored shoulder. None of this is anyone else offering Victoria physical contact as support. And in fact, I think Armstrong here is kind of proof that Victoria sometimes extends a "don't fucking touch me" aura to people, whether she means to or not. And it's interesting to me because like the idea of physical contact, she recognizes the importance of it in that because she's giving it to other people, right? Like, she sees the malfunctions and say, these people need hugs. She sees her team, she gives them big old hugs, she claps them on the shoulder, she's supporting them, she's making physical contact with them. And so it's obviously something that she recognizes as something that could help people when they're suffering.
Oh yeah.
And she's not getting any of it herself. And she's not asking for it, but she's also not getting it. And we'll see Sveta try in the next chapter, and we're going to talk about that a little bit when we get there. But it's just very, very interesting to me because Victoria is basically spending all the rest of this chapter and the entirety of the next chapter taking stock of the group, taking stock of her team and their connections. But she's so absorbed by how they're doing and how they're getting along that she doesn't ever really take the time to think about herself and where she fits in this equation. Victoria gives hugs. She doesn't ever bother trying to get them. And
yeah,
I was nervous.
Yeah, I think I'll have more to say about this when we get to the next chapter, because there's actually a couple of beats of Victoria as caretaker never being taken care of.
Yeah,
But yeah, we'll get there pretty soon. So.
There's one part that jumped out at me that I wanted to talk about as well. When she does hug Sveta, she says, "I squeezed her, finding myself surprised that it wasn't a prosthetic I was holding." And when I first read this, like, my immediate reaction was, I think I actually tweeted this. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why? And then I thought about it more. And I mean, you kind of realize that it's been a very short amount of time since Sveta got her body. It just hasn't been that long a time. And just this idea that she's been with Sveta for so long in a certain way, and she still hasn't really even mentally readjusted to this idea of, this is a person who doesn't have a prosthetic body. This is a person who has a body.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like that little bit of detail.
Yeah, me too. It just shows you where her head is, right? Like, she's so not in the present moment that she would just be like, I mean, it's not like she's shocked, right? It's not like it's a huge deal. It's just like a momentary, like, oh right, this happened. I remember that now.
I totally forgot this whole big part of my journey and Sveta's journey that happened briefly because I'm so kind of like lost. It's really great.
So she rejoins her team, and then she lays down some stricter rules for Lookout, since this is the first time that they've interacted since she got chewed out by Miss Militia. Mainly, these rules are in the hopes that the wardens won't feel a need to pile it on. I think, she's basically hoping, like, look, I'm going to be fairly strict here, and then hopefully that'll be it. Tristan then adds an important addendum that when Kinsey runs things by the team, that the team not just be her evil villain friends. So good catch there, Tristan.
I love the consistency with which Lookout operates. We've talked about this before. Kenzie does not lie to you, right? She will not look you in your face and tell you something that is untrue, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But she is one of those people that you have to be very specific and explicit with. If you give a loophole, she will take the loophole, which is, I mean, it fits with her hacking personality, right? Like, if she finds a back door, she will use it. And that's perfect here. And bless your heart, Tristan, that you're like immediately like sussed out the monkey's paw of this command. It's just perfect. I loved it.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's kind of good because it shows us that he's actually paying attention to these details.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
His head is in the game. I mean,
sure.
He may be in a really bad place, but he is paying attention. So
yeah. And I mean, it is also for me kind of concerning about Kenzie, because she gets really annoyed by this, and like a bit later we're gonna see her like roll her eyes and be sarcastic about this new limitation. And it's just like, Kenzie, you're not getting like how close to really in trouble you are here. Like Victoria's staving off the warden's wrath jumping down on you. You need to be taking this more seriously. And maybe Victoria like sugarcoated how much trouble she was in a little bit too much, or maybe it's just like, this is just Kenzie. She's never going to take it seriously. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think Kenzie hanging around with these young kids her own age who are literally villains, it is a bad influence on her. Like it's making her disregard this whole idea of keeping things above board, because she's just like, well, whatever. Even if the wardens reject me, I'll just join the Undersiders, right? Like, she never said that necessarily, but like I feel like her head goes in that direction now. You know,
it's interesting because I totally agree with you that they're a bad influence, but I also totally agree with Tristan who makes the counter argument. It's like, yeah, but they're also helping her in certain ways, and it's like I think both are true, right? I don't think a person's influence on your life is binary. They are bad influences in certain ways, and they are good for you in other ways. And just got to kind of weigh those two influences.
I mean, the Undersiders were probably super bad influences on Taylor, right?
Yep.
But also they pulled her out of what was a really bad spot in her life where she was at.
Yeah.
And then she lives happily ever after, as we all know.
Totally. Absolutely.
There were no issues after she met the Undersiders. But
hey, if she's in Earth A, isn't there a giant dauntless there?
Yeah, I think so. When she is in Earth A. What do you mean if? Anyway,
somewhere Taylor is under in her basement with a sledgehammer, like sledgehammering the floor and digging up her old costume, John Wick style.
I just got a really vivid image of that. Now I have to write a fan fiction. Excuse me. Yeah. So after this, they head through the portal into the derelict Fallen compound within sight range of Eve and the Nemean Titan, I think.
Was it the Nemean? I thought it was.
I might have just mistyped. It might have been
Moose Prancer one. Oberon.
I think it might have been Oberon. I think I might have just mistyped somehow.
That's fine. I really love that we've returned here though. The site. This is like. Remember back in this book when the Fallen War was like the biggest event that was happening in the world. Remember that?
Yeah,
that was quaint. But this is like the site of one of the first real big conflicts of Ward, and it's a return to a place that has a lot of bad memories for Rain. And Victoria describes this place as anachronistic and anatopistic, which there's a bunch of cabins and stone walls and like windy roads mixed in with school buses. There's evidence of past battles, and in the distance, new tents being put up by people that clearly know how to put up tents because they're people that this has just been their life the entire time. The city is no more, and this is where people live now in the boonies. Like, this is existence now on the edges with places that look like this weird mix of past and present with memories of past conflict right in front of you and future conflict on the horizon in the form of these big titans. This is existence. This is what it is now. And I love this image. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, once again, Wildbow is masterful with his use of setting to evoke a certain feeling.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things that he does, we've talked about it a bunch, we've had discussion questions about it even, is return to old settings usually those settings will have changed in some way, and the change in the setting is what helps create the feeling that he's going for in the scene.
Yeah, and it also helps reflect the change in the characters. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, right. There's a lot of, he does a lot of stuff with it. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I think, I mean, we could have gone anywhere, right? We could have just gone to some random field somewhere, but we choose the Fallen Camp, which is, like you said, it's a setting from earlier in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it has certain connotations.
Yeah.
So Victoria notes that Tristan seems extremely crushed and alienated, and she talks to him about it, and he vents to her a little bit, and then he goes off to find a church.
I have a lot to say about this conversation. First of all, we have to say, on the surface, what this is doing is like laying the tracks for this idea that Tristan could go Titan next time one of these disasters happens. And like we talked about earlier, I wonder if that is so transparently obvious that it's just misdirection. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I've stopped making actual predictions at this point. it could be, could not be, you know?
Yeah.
But the conversation itself is really powerful. And I like, without being too hard on Victoria, I kind of feel like she fumbles this a little bit. And I think it's because of something that you said when you and I were talking about this earlier today, that I think there's a part of Victoria that just doesn't really get Tristan. And I think that becomes very evident in this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Like she's trying really hard. Like no, she's not holding anything back here. She's really worried about him. She's really reaching out her hand to him. And it's just that the things that she's saying to try to cheer him up are things that would maybe cheer up Victoria to hear,
right?
But are not really things that are connecting to Tristan with what he's struggling with in this moment.
I totally agree, because the way she starts the conversation is, "You're doing a good job, Tristan," and his response is, "I know." There was no brag in his voice, but that's not all there is there? Tristan knows he's good at being a cape. He knows that, but that's not what he wants. He wants more than just that, which is, as you said, it's kind of a difficult thing for Victoria herself to understand, because being a cape, being a hero, has always been such a huge part of her life that she really didn't have much room for anything else. Like that, it's been that. That's always just been that. And that is not Tristan. And he's talking about all these burned bridges. He's talking about, like, he made this terrible choice and it burned all these bridges, and he understands that it takes a long time for people to rebuild these bridges, and the only person that has actually rebuilt a bridge to him is his brother, but his brother isn't here right now. His brother, when Tristan is out, his brother is unconscious, so he's not there. And Victoria offers that, well, no, you definitely have bridges. Look, look to everyone at Breakthrough. Look at your team. Your team respects you and they love you. Look to that. And she's right. But that's not what Tristan wants, right? Like Tristan wants something beyond capedom. And to Victoria, Breakthrough is a family away from her family. It is a family she chose. I don't know if it's the same thing for Tristan. I don't know if he looks at these people who he loves and respects. I'm not saying he doesn't do that, but I don't think he looks at them in the same way that Victoria looks at them. I think he wants those bridges with romantic relationships, with friendships, with his mother and father. I think those are things that he values and wants and needs, and he doesn't have them. And so this idea of look to your friends, look to your teammates, those bridges are still there for you. It's like, yeah, I know, just like I know I'm a good cape, but that's not enough for me.
Yeah. I feel like it's an ongoing source of pain that his mom won't talk to him, like, whereas Victoria doesn't really have that particular kind of pain in her life. All of her pain is more of the variety of all of these people have disappointed me, let me down, and hurt me, and few of them are even apologetic about it. Whereas Tristan is like, yeah, I hurt these people and they haven't forgiven me, and that really hurts.
Yeah.
And it continues to hurt, and there's no as good, he can be the best hero he can be and it will still hurt. And I think that's the thing is, I don't know, this is more of a conjecture, but like it's almost like having your mom be mad at you is more of a connection, because at least you're sad that you're at least you're sad about a relationship rather than being mad. I don't know. It slipped away from me as I was trying to articulate it, but
I mean, I do think there's something really interesting around the amnesty here, though, because Tristan was forgiven for what he did because of the amnesty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed him to be a cape still. Basically, it was legal forgiveness that allowed him to operate as a hero. Or was the murder after Gold Morning? The quote unquote murder? It was before, right?
It was before, and then it was dropped anyway because it was, well, no, it wasn't dropped. I don't remember actually, but yeah, it was before. Then I think the amnesty did just kind of wash the slate clean.
Yeah. So I mean, it's this really interesting thing where it is legal operational forgiveness in order to get to go out and put on your costume and be a hero. And that's great. But what Tristan is saying here is that's meaningless to him. Or not meaningless, but compared to what he needs, it's meaningless. Because he needs the amnesty or the forgiveness from the people in his life that he cares about, and those people are understandably having a very tough time extending it to him, and he's getting to a point where he's feeling everything you would feel if you're about to turn into a Titan. He's feeling alone, he's feeling disconnected from those people, and it's not good.
Yeah, don't have much to add there, other than I agree with you that she tries her best here, but I don't know that her little pep talk does any good. So
I mean, like, the way it ends is like she like gives her big like speech about your team, and he sighs and says, "I'm gonna go find a church." So like, it's not a lot of confidence.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So Victoria then joins our Greater Heartbreak Siders group, plus the Malfunctions and Death Jester. I'm not going to try to cram all those words together. Sorry. She makes a few remarks, but she's mainly passively observing the banter that happens in this scene. She's observing the connections that have formed between and within these groups. Eventually, she makes the rounds, kind of like literally moving around and checking on everyone. I think that the main standout here in terms of my personal enjoyment is the interactions between new best friends, Imp and Damsel.
Yeah, I don't have anything like analytical to say about that, except it's wonderful. Like talking about Latin, it's just really great. And I think you're right that the next chapter delves more into the specifics of the connections that link this disparate group together. But for now, we are really enjoying just them kind of playing off each other in fun ways. Like Imp and Damsel together are hilarious. The Malfunctions reaction to the horror that is the Heartbroken is perfect, because like, I think once again, we say this a lot with the Heartbroken, but we are so used to the way they are that it is sometimes fun to bring in new characters that are just like, why would you say that? Like, this exasperated, like, we're like, oh, because it's the Heartbroken. But let's remind ourselves.
Yeah, these innocent, normal kids. Just like, what is your problem?
Yeah. I think you're right, though, that the heartbreaking, pun not intended, moment of this is that Victoria doesn't really join in. I mean, you're right that she does chat for a bit, but it's her chatting is mostly about planning for what's going to come next. She doesn't really engage in small talk very much, except for a couple things. And Sveta invites her to sit around the fire and join in, but she declines and ends up flying away and flying into isolation and loneliness. And it's interesting because while she's away from the fire, she acknowledges the strength in it. She acknowledges the strength in that community around the fire. She said she's thinking about all the things she's going through, and it says it made me feel sad to even think about it. And that sadness reminded me of the fire and how it hadn't been sad. Uncomfortable in places, yes, but not sad. And so it's like this acknowledgement that there around that fire is warmth, literally and metaphorically, and strength. But she's removed herself from it right now.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where when you're rereading, especially, you see like you imagine the situation from the third person, and you see Sveta in your imagination just staring at Victoria with extremely worried eyes and saying, "Why don't you come sit with us?" And Victoria flies away, and then next time Victoria comes back, she like physically drapes herself over Victoria to be like, calm down and stay here for a minute.
Yeah.
And like Sveta is clearly just very worried about Victoria here, and I don't even think Victoria is aware that Sveta feels that way. But I think that comes across when you're especially when you're rereading and kind of paying attention to things that way.
Yeah, I mean, in the next chapter, Victoria will make specific note of the people who choose not to engage in the conversation around the fire and walk off on their own. Mm-hmm. And that is literally what she just did. So.
Yeah. So the chapter then ends with Victoria clarifying for us that when she asked for guns, she was asking for big guns.
the biggest guns possible.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I'm both excited and terrified about this prospect. I'm not quite sure where the logic is. Like, I guess I might as well do whatever I can, but like, I don't know if powers are going to work on these things, but perhaps guns will.
Well, I mean, for me, it made a lot of sense because I was like, well, okay, the only reason they didn't use like, C-130 gunships on the Endbringers was that every time they tried something like that, it would result in a far worse outcome. Now they have no excuse not to, because like there's just no reason not to pull out all the stops.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have some pretty amazing military weapons. So why not employ those if you're going to have to fight these things?
That's true. So. That's true. And I love that she acknowledges the betrayal she feels, right? Like she uses those specified italicized thoughts to literally talk to herself. You hate guns, Victoria. You hate what they represent, symbols of the breach in the compact between capes and civilians. She knows this. She knows that. I mean, we've talked about this slow shift over the course of this book about going from hating guns. I think she says, like, I think at the very beginning there's a whole speech about like the weight of the pack and like the gun and like the emphasis on defense. And it's just totally shifted over the course of this book to now where she's like, yes, matrix me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. 2 tons of gun, please. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet she's going to do it anyway because it feels necessary. And I love at the end of this chapter emphasizes like these thoughts that she's having and the isolating coldness of these thoughts, right? Like as she ruminates on this, she's alone up in the air. Her breath is fogging as she says it. When she lands on the ground, it's the frozen ground. She returns to this warm fire from being isolated. And as she returns to the warmth of the fire, to the warmth of community, those cold thoughts, those thoughts associated with the cold follow her. I made my way back to the fire where I tried to make my peace with them being those thoughts, those inherent contradictions, this idea that to make progress, I constantly have to betray the part of myself that I wanted to. And it's just kind of sad, which is also, now that I think of it, that having to betray the things that are most important to you to feel like you're making progress is a specific echoing of the way Fumehood felt right before she turned into a giant titan.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right. But you gotta kill all these people to save these kids that I like, and that's what pushed it over for her. Yep, good point. That's horrible. Yeah, I mean, let's move on to the next chapter because we pretty much just segue smoothly into it story wise. So 18.3.
Sure.
And we resume with the team using Kenzie's map to try to plan the coming battle, trying to plan while Tattletale is being ridiculous. I mean,
I really am into super grumpy Tattletale though.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, part of me wonders like what her power is telling her about their chances here. Like this conflict is unique in the series so far. Every bad guy they've gone up against, they've found a way to beat them and then they won. This is something new because there are multiple questions here. What if they can't beat these things? That's a question. The other question is, what if they beat them? Then what? Because like when the problem was Scion, you beat Scion and you win. The problem is these Titans, let's say they successfully kill every single Titan. You didn't solve the underlying problem. You just defeated the most present representation of that problem. Like you're treating the symptom, not the cause. And so like there's got to be a feeling of hopelessness to this, and I think that is reflected in Super Grumpy Tattletale.
Yeah. I mean that's a good point, right? Like there's everybody's got a shard. Everybody has a capacity to go Titan, right? Like there's no, yeah, definitely. I think you're onto something there. I think that, I mean, I think part of her grumpiness is like good-natured grumpiness.
Yeah.
But I think she's also like, this is kind of how she deals when she's anxious at the same time. So, there's. It's also just extremely entertaining, of course. Like everything about the group around the fire is just some of the best like humor and enjoyable banter in this book so far, in my opinion.
100%. And I love it, and I love, like, I would be super grumpy too if someone ranked Rain higher than me, like that. I would, I would too. So I get it. I get it, Tattletale.
Fair. So as this conversation is happening, Gibbet is using her power to make an army of snowmen. And I like this a lot because it's a fun and kind of like background flavor moment, but it's also subtly teaching us that Gibbet's power can be used on seemingly anything, not just the gibbet that she carries around.
Yeah. So. And also Frozen 2 just came out. So do you want to build some snowmen?
I'm sure that was intentional, Scott.
It was. Wildbow has his pulse on the culture.
I mean, wouldn't that be what you would use your power for if you had the power to duplicate stuff?
Oh my God,
lots of snowmen.
I would duplicate so many things. It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, the delightful inter-team banter in these chapters is just fantastic. Wildbow is going for these feelings of camaraderie and familiarity here, and he's just nailing it. these people are so great together, and I'm glad that everyone is going to be completely fine. Um, Also, Victoria notes that the people who stay around the fire form their own little cliques, and she details all the little nuances of who is interacting with who. While there are, of course, a handful of people who leave the fire not feeling like they fit in, mostly those being the Deathchester members.
Yeah, I mean, I first of all, I completely agree with you about how delightful this is. I was really tempted in prepping for this podcast to just like pull out a bunch of sections and just say absolutely wonderful, I love it. But that doesn't seem like a valuable use of time. So I'll just say for all of this, absolutely wonderful, I love it.
Yeah.
The best part about it is it's not just a fun distraction, which it absolutely is. But Victoria is, amidst all this fun distraction, assessing the group. Last chapter, they observed the lines drawn linking together the Titans. Here, we're seeing Victoria draw those lines and observe them that are linking the people, because these connections matter now. And I mean, they've always mattered thematically, right? This book has always been about community and the power of connection. But the book has taken that central idea of society, of community, of reaching out, of bonding, and in the best of genre fiction tradition, making it literal. Now these connections literally matter. Who has connections around the fire and who doesn't is a question that will indeed matter literally for the fight that is to come. And so it gets to play double duty. It gets to be just a fun scene, but also we're doing important things behind it.
Excuse me, I have to get my cork board and my yarn and my pins and map out where everyone is sitting and who is talking to who, and then try to map that onto which Titans have linked with which other Titans and see if the maps match.
That would be an interesting experiment. Someone should do that.
Someone should do that. No, I mean that's exactly right. Like you said, I think it does go pretty deep there too, because we've got we've got heroes here, we've got villains here, we've got two hero teams, three villain teams, roughly speaking, right? But they're all sitting together. There are clearly interactions across these lines that are friendly. Sometimes they're overtly friendly, sometimes they're kind of friendly ribbing, but everybody's getting along, and because they have a common goal here, right? They have the common goal of survival, which is exactly what you could say is going on with the shards on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here the book is really kind of emphasizing how many characters are in this big alliance and how they've all come to know and in many cases like each other. I mean, who doesn't get lines here? Even relatively taciturn and minor characters like Perian, Rachel, and Cass get to say their piece at this fire.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely everybody. And it's one of those moments, and we talked about these moments before, but it's one of those moments where you're just so comfortable in it because the characterization of each and every individual character has been so good leading up to this moment that you just know exactly who these people are and exactly what they want. Imp is talking about her ass freezing in French. Damsel is thrilled by it. Rain is remembering his tough times, and Lisa is being snarky about that. Perian's talking about fashion. Cass is trying to get a gift for Chastity. Side piece is literally showing her ovaries, and Foil and Finale are very uncomfortable with it. It is 1.5 million words of character building all combining together into this one scene. Wildbow trusts that we remember most of it, reminds us of what he thinks we might have forgotten, and allows everything to play out exactly like what we would imagine it would if we put all these characters together. Like we said earlier, this could be the last everyone together downtime moment of the story, and it is everything that kind of moment needs to be. It is serving function, it is generating emotion, it is reminding us of characters, it is just a joy to read.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we could have just like quoted the entire thing and just been like, I love this. This is also hilarious.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I wish I could quote specifically the entire portion between Damsel supplying the word impertinent to Imp and then just being so crushingly disappointed when Imp says, can't blow your wad too soon. Can't blow your wad. You were doing so well. I just love that so much.
I mean, it's just so clever, right? Like as soon as the book puts Damsel and Imp together, you're like, of course.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that sooner? It makes perfect sense in exactly the way it plays out, where she would like be very impressed with her, but then Imp's natural impiness would kind of leak out, and she would just be like, ugh, Jesus.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, you were so close. Yeah. And we even get to see Withdrawal, the natural caretaker, distract Lookout from her complaining with some tinker talk.
Mm-hmm.
Wild Bill just trying to slip by us, the two low-key strongest tinkers in the setting, having a little sit down.
Yeah, that's certainly going to pay off in some kind of way in the future, definitely. But
Yeah.
I do agree that it shows the strength of Withdrawal. He is part of the tripod that is the Major Malfunction, this kind of self-supporting insular group, but that doesn't mean they can't support other people as well. And we see it in this moment that he's not only aware of something with her, but he's going to do something about it.
Yeah.
Gotta say, though, not happy with Kenzie's eye-rolling reactions here. Like, she's like, this is what we were talking about earlier, where she's like, is it okay if I get his number, Victoria?
Right. Very teenager.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can just see that she's doing this to like show off in front of her friends the way teenagers do.
Yeah.
Like turn into basically this kind of behavior when mom is around, and
Sure.
then when the friends are not there, then you're just normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having circled the fire, Victoria sits and gets draped in a comfortable Sveta coat, which she describes as, quote, simultaneously comfortable and uncomfortably reminiscent of my time in the hospital, the best of the bad days.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going back to that moment we were talking about earlier, or the idea we were talking about earlier about physical contact. Nobody's offered her physical contact. Sveta has sort of conspicuously, if you're paying attention, been worried about Victoria, and now she like literally offers, just kind of like drapes herself over her in like a full body hug. But even this is not, it's kind of a wash, right? It's not comfortable, really.
You describe this as basically neutral on comfort score, right? Because there is part of her that appreciates the physical contact, but then part of her is reminded of time in the hospital. So net comfort 0.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, and I think that's important, that like even this attempt by Sveta, and I think we'll see that this physical attempt by Sveta, along with the conversational attempt by Sveta, doesn't really work.
Right. That's exactly what so she and Sveta now head off to have a talk, and I think it's safe to say that in Sveta's mind, the point of this talk is for Sveta to try to help Victoria.
Yeah.
And that's not really what happens. I mean, okay, so Sveta points out that Victoria, she seems like she's doing better than Tristan seems, but she knows better than to trust how Vicky seems. She thinks that Victoria has seemed different since they visited the Shard World. Victoria, though, turns the conversation back on Sveta, clearly prompting Sveta to talk about the conclusive discovery that she's trans, and not really wanting to talk about herself.
Yeah, and we'll talk all about that second half of the conversation in a minute, because I love it so much. But I think you're absolutely right here that in Sveta's mind, the beginning of this thing was let's deal with what's going on with Victoria. And it's really interesting because, like, on the surface, Victoria is just like I'm cool, like I'm good. And like the way she answers these questions are in a very textual read, like I'm doing fine. Like the two things she says, we see Victoria's answers to the questions are very specific to very specific worries, but not like a broad understanding of how are you doing, right? Because Sveta shows that she's nervous, and Armstrong is nervous about Victoria related to the potential of going Titan. And Victoria basically says, like, as long as an ability to resist this exists, I'm going to do it if there's still a member of Breakthrough that needs protecting. As long as there is a member of this team that needs protecting, I am not going to go Titan. And and then the thing number 2 that she says is, I'm me. So Sveta talks about how since we've been to the Shard World, you've seemed a little different. And her response is, I'm me. And that's one of those answers that's like, I mean, yeah, like every version that was in there was you. Like, the question is not, are you you? The question is, have you changed from the person you were before you went in there?
Yeah. Should we be worried? Do we need to talk about something?
And it's so, like, both of these things are technically true, right? Like, I believe Victoria when she says both these things. I'm not calling her a liar, but they're true in like the Kenzie kind of way, where like they're just very narrow and specific without dealing with the overall all encompassing how are you?
But yeah, I mean, I'm me is almost rudely dismissive. It's a shutting down of a
Mm-hmm.
conversational thread instead of like, look, this is what happened. I kind of thought maybe that I tapped into like an older facet of who I am, but I'm still, this and this and this is the same. Maybe I feel a little bit different in this way. Like it's not like she hasn't thought about this. She just doesn't want to talk about it. She
Mm-hmm.
wants to talk about Sveta's stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the first thing about wanting to resist being a Titan as long as there's a single surviving member of Breakthrough is just the most foreboding possible thing you could say.
Right.
Um,
It's also like if that's your bar for doing okay, is I probably won't turn into a giant death machine as long as there's still someone on my team.
yeah.
Is like cool. That's
Well,
certainly
I mean, right. Like that's bad. Like
right.
if somebody's like, how are you doing? And you're like, well, I have a lot of friends and I'm able to help them and support them. You're like, oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'm very worried about you.
Yeah, right. You need to have something, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then they fly a bit. They fly away from the fire and they settle in the top of a tree. They see Eve forebodingly making spikes, javelins out of gas.
Yeah, because people keep pestering her and she's just trying to do good networky thingies.
Yeah. Yeah. Just leave me alone and breaking my walls and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sveta begins sharing some fascinatingly complex feelings. So the discovery that she's trans plays into things in this really fascinating way because it turns out that it's more about the revelation that she was unhappy in her old life and that she already hated her body. And this has really done a number on her feelings
Yeah.
because she always hated Cauldron for number one, destroying her body, number two, taking her away from a presumably happy life, and a few other things, of course. But those are main ones. And now she realizes that she might have Cauldron to thank for where she is now, for where she finds herself. She says, I hated Cauldron and I still do, but I'm grateful at the same time. And whichever emotion I feel like I'm betraying the other.
This is like one of the single most complex character moments in this book, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it to death. Like
Yeah.
it takes the idea that Sveta is trans, this wonderful reveal about this character, and it takes it to just this of course, like finding that out is going to mean this confusion and uncertainty. You're absolutely right. She created this central idyllic idea that her life before Cauldron came and messed it up was perfect. She was happy, she was herself, she had her body, and she's learned that was false. And of course, like obviously whenever you create an idyllic existence, like it's going to be false, like regardless of whether she was trans or not, that would be false. But that part of her makes it like almost literal. It brings the idea to the forefront. And I just love it. It's just this really complex, like I sit here and I'm like, oh yeah, like if someone was like talking to me about how they felt about this, I would be like, yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing I could say is like, I think it's okay to feel both of those ways. I think it's okay to feel confused and uncertain and not sure of what you feel in any given moment. I think that's fine in a situation like this because I don't fucking know what you should do.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think that anytime you learn some new information that recontextualizes the basis for really strong feelings, it creates this kind of shock to your whole system as you're
Yeah.
like, well, I had this really solid narrative that I was using to kind of navigate my life by, and now that's all completely upside down. And that's just very disorienting and kind of upsetting for people. Like
Yeah.
the way we live our lives, we create narratives, and Sveta's narrative has just been pretty much nuked. And the fact that she's trans is at least the way she's telling it here, almost secondary to all this other stuff that she's figuring out about blame and guilt and where she belongs now, and this club of the K-53s that she felt like she was part of, and now she doesn't know if she qualifies anymore and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a whole complicated mess of uncertainty and feelings. I love this line. Like she's talking about, like she had I kind of didn't realize that all I was inside my body, inside my head, in my identity, it was more demons. that's it's a powerful thing for her to say. And I love Victoria's response to this is, can you befriend your demons? I asked. Tame them. And that's such a Victoria thing to do, right? Because I mean, that's literally what Victoria has done, is taken her worst, her most confusing or worst parts of herself, or memories of some of the worst moments of her life and the worst realizations, and tamed them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel this is awesome. I mean, one thing is, remember when she was going through with the procedure with Mr. Bao, we were basically like, look, this is great. I hope it turns out well for her. But I don't think it'll fix everything that she thinks it'll fix.
Yeah.
Like she'll still have these feelings, these complex feelings of guilt and betrayal regarding the irregulars. So this has just kind of brought all of that to the forefront, I think, and made it clear that like you can't really, like, I mean, she says it explicitly here, like you can't blame it all on the body. It's in your head. It's your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great.
It is really great.
So in response to all this, Victoria says, I think it's okay to hate. Fuck them. Say it with me.
I really like this, and it echoes some of the beats we've seen from Victoria earlier in the book, recognizing that hate is this necessary feeling and a powerful tool sometimes. I immediately was brought back to a moment where we talked about Victoria channeling her hate into a survival mechanism after being super burned back in the dream room, right? And I thought what you said about how she uses her hate in that moment was absolutely beautiful, and I think some of our listeners have echoed that same sentiment. And I think we're seeing Victoria present that idea, that thing she learned here, to Sveta as well. And Sveta is this person that I think, with some exceptions, spends a lot of her time. She's a type of person that wants people to like her, I think. Like even the regulars that did this horrible thing and shunned her, like, she is most upset that they hate her. And so, like, this idea of, hey, maybe you should, like, be pissed off at some of these people, is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, within this very conversation, it's pointed out that she always apologizes for everything, which is really one of those, like, people pleaser traits, where it's like you don't need to do that. I mean, it kind of like it kind of hit me when she does start, going through the litany of, actually fuck them, especially when she gets to fuck them for killing my sister, because, man, like, Nayet was a hero. We loved her. They killed her with the bad vial. It sucks.
Yeah, remember how much we talked her up as this, like, amazing natural hero, thinking we were talking about how fucking great Sveta is?
Yeah.
Well, Sveta's still fucking great, but so is this person.
Yeah.
This person, like, I didn't even, like, it didn't even occur to me until we read this part that was true, that this person like, oh, she's like this natural hero, and look at that, it's just ingrained inside her. And it's like, no, that was someone else that didn't make it.
And
that person has died.
Cauldron killed her. Yeah.
My favorite thought in this whole thing, though, is when she says fuck Weld. I found this really satisfying, because Weld did Sveta dirty, right? Like, he hurt her, and even after the breakup, we've seen this optimist, people pleaser, apology prone Sveta, like, try really hard to paint over the action. Right. That beat we've seen multiple times of, he's still really cool. He's still my favorite person. I still love him. And look, sometimes anger is appropriate. And when a dude breaks your heart like Weld did, it's okay to get to a place where you get mad at him. Fuck Weld. Like, fuck him. Like, he hurt you. You should be angry at him for doing that.
I think just part of the, like, grieving process is you go through the period of fuck that person, and then a while later you're able to be like, there was blame on both sides, but you don't need to. You can be human first, right?
Right, and I think that's what Victoria kind of smartly frames this as, is like, it's not that you should, like, live in hatred and anger, but in regulated ways, in closely monitored and regulated ways that you don't find yourself getting sucked up into it. It's okay to feel that way. And that's what that's the central argument of what you're saying. Yeah. It's okay to not apologize and to say, no, you apologize, you fucker.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And basically Vicky's validating all of her feelings here that she doesn't think that she should be feeling, because she thinks that she should just forgive everyone and be nice. And, Vicky's like, no, fuck them.
And all that,
Yeah,
all this to say is that as much as I think Victoria kind of fumbled the Tristan conversation, she's killing it here. Like
yeah,
she's, especially the moment we're about to get into. Like I think this is beautiful and effective and kind. I love her here.
yeah. So Vicky gives Sveta this very poignant and beautiful friend to friend talk about who Sveta is, about the identity that she can claim when she's in this uncertain place. And man, I'm just really glad nothing bad is going to happen to any of these characters.
Nothing. Yeah, it's
Um,
happily ever after.
yeah, I love the names she picks out to kind of name the facets of Sveta: mosaic, painter, justikar, caretaker. Um, and this is it's beautiful. It's this thing that Victoria's always done to herself, of course, of breaking herself into pieces, and Sveta responds, and what do I do with all these pieces of myself after I've broken apart the mirror and divided my personality out among the shards so each one shows a different me? And then I read this sentence, and my brain blew apart all over the room that I was in, and it was hell to clean up. But anyway, um, I had never considered the shards as being, shards of something, that was once whole and is now broken and alienated from itself and desperately wants to be whole again and doesn't actually know how to do that.
Yeah, I am equally upset with myself that it never occurred to me until 1.6 million words into this book that the way Victoria divides her various personalities into different aspects, different facets,
Yeah.
and
Different shards.
labels them is literally exactly what the entities do when they disperse shards.
Yeah.
And they are different facets of a whole that I don't know how it took me till the book literally saying it's like shards for me to figure this out.
Yeah. And
But
Victoria's going to be like, yes, it's almost like I have a thinker and a warrior aspect. I almost feel like we sort of glancingly touched on this way earlier in the story, but it's become such a more rich metaphor now that it's like, okay, yes, it's I get it, yes.
yeah, I mean, even the names she gives them are like similar sounding kind of to the ones that Valkyrie told us were the names of the shards, right? Like Justikar, Wretch, Scholar, like these
Yeah.
names of the facets of herself. It's right there, and like I feel like I had the two puzzle pieces, and they were just like right next to it. You just had to pivot one just a little bit, and then the book like grabbed the piece and put it in place for me because it's like Jesus, Scott, and just put it in place. It's I love it. Like it is beautiful. This central idea of like she basically tells her like you are Sveta and you are made up of all these things, and it ties back into what I think she was talking to Tattletale about, how you have to look at this holistically, right? Like it can't, you can't break down shard versus person, just like you can't really break down Justikar versus the versus painter. It is definitely um a facet of you, an individual facet of you, but they all add up. Like I think, doesn't she say something to the effect of like all these shards are part of your mirror and your mirror is not broken, it is still whole. You are Sveta, and Sveta is all these different things. And yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. I love it so much.
Yeah. All sorts of implications to what the shards are trying to do now, right?
Right.
They've lost their hubs. They've lost what you could call their like organizing principle, but they're still trying to rejoin to continue their life cycle, which is literally reassembling into one, or actually two organisms, two mega organisms, two, holistic creatures, like what a person is to their facets.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. I like it.
It is. It's just wonderful. It's really good. It's really
Yeah.
good. And yeah, I think you're right that the implication for this going into the future is really fascinating, and I'm so glad that the book made us figure this out at this point, because now we can think about this as we're thinking about what does the ending look like? What is winning? What is success in this regard? Because Sveta might be a full mirror filled with shards of her personality, but the entities that mirror is definitely cracked. That's the whole problem. And how can we? Is the solution to help superglue them back together? Is there a way to superglue them back together without killing all of us? That is the question.
All of the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. So I don't know, but we'll see, right? Maybe
there's another freaking Through the Looking Glass referenced for you, Matt.
Yep, exactly. I did do it Through the Looking Glass. Like, speaking of looking glasses, I mean, it's a mirror, right? It's a shattered mirror.
Yeah.
Yep. I tried to find more connections recently, and I couldn't find any really fresh ones. But yeah. So yeah, the team eventually, as they wrap up their conversation, comes and joins them, using Gibbet's power once again to boost them all up into the treetops. Tristan joins them last, coming on foot, warning everyone to beware the cracks. Again, his head is in the game. He's actually thinking about these tactical oriented things. And as they come together, they get a warning that Eve is trying to connect with Oberon, that is Prancer and Moose, and they're ordered to stop it from happening.
Yeah, so this is some animation shit. And I'm not saying that in a way that I don't like it, but it's literally like a bunch of superheroes standing on like 30-foot tall logs. Yeah, like
in hero poses, except for Chicken, who is holding on with a sweat drop on his forehead.
Right. Cloaks billowing in the wind as they look at the giant smoke monster in the distance.
And like the episode ending, like music sting happens.
Yeah. I do like, joking aside, I think this is really just this culminating moment of the end of the calm before the storm. I think it's really beautiful that like they're literally like hoisted up into the air, looking at what they're about to have to face, each on their own pillar, kind of, but presumably some are holding each other up at least. I think it's just this really powerful, fitting image, and I really like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and that wraps it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do that name game that you're talking about.
Sure, let's talk about some Greek mythology. Not just Greek mythology, but some Greek mythology.
Various mythology. So Oberon, which is Moose and Prancer, is apparently a character in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, king of the fairies and spouse to Titania. In the play, the two of them fight back and forth.
Yeah, Titania falls in love with a donkey, I think it is, because of a love spell. It's been a while since I read Midsummer Night's Dream, but I loved the wordplay of like Oberon being a Titan. Titania. Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm not. Besides, I guess the nature aspect of it, of the like fairy forest type of nature. I'm not sure where that one specifically came from, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's a sort of fey creature. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Next up, we have Victor, who is the Nemean Titan, and of course, the most well-known mythological thing with the Nemean name is the Nemean lion, who is the lion that Hercules had to defeat as the first of his 12 labors. He had a completely invulnerable coat and super strong claws, and Herc choked it to death and then wore it as skin.
And I guess this is because this Titan has like a golden mane, basically.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There is this fun, we haven't talked about it on the show, I think, but there's this fun 12 labors of Antares theory that's I've seen floating around, that like a lot of events in the story match one of Hercules' 12 labors, and it's an interesting theory, and I love that how this kind of winks at it a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely some lion connections between Victoria, or lion connections with Victoria. So yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of stuff that I thought I liked a bit. Not sure if I like see the totality of the theory or like what its implications are, but yeah, it's a fun little thing. Arachne, who is Hunter. Arachne was a very skilled weaver who challenged Athena to a weaving contest, won, and then got turned into a spider because that's how the gods roll. Yeah.
How dare you beat me in a weaving contest? You have to be a spider now.
Right. Just don't ever. Just if you're interacting with the gods, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I that story is really fun because like the things that each of them were weaving is very specific. Like Athena is weaving a 4-piece story about what happens to people when they think they're as good as the gods, and Arachne is weaving like a 3-piece story about like how shitty the gods are to humans. It's like just Greek mythology is so fun sometimes.
Yeah, that's great.
Next up, we have Skadi, who is Axehead. This is one I don't know a lot about because I don't know a lot of Norse mythology. So I had to look this up, and this is mostly just Wikipedia. Sometimes called the snowshoe goddess, but regardless is known for winter hunting and skiing. I don't know what that has to do with Axe Lady.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm sure there's some there.
Maybe we'll find out.
And then finally, Ophion, Mr. Bao. Ophion was the only one of these titans besides Kronos to be named after an actual titan. Ophion, in fact, is one of the elder titans that ruled the world before being defeated and cast down by Kronos. We know very little about this guy, but one modern interpretation makes him a snake.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Ophion is a very like obscure but like powerful god in and the thing about Kronos, I realized this when I was pulling information about Kronos, because we don't know. So there's a Kronos and a Kronos, and those are two different people in the Greek pantheon. The way that Kronos is spelled in parahumans is Kronos, which is the one that applies to Cronus, which is the Titan that was killed, or his son Zeus overthrew him, and that's how the Greek gods got in charge and defeated the Titans. But there's also the Kronos, like the god of time one, and I'm not sure which one it's supposed to refer to for our Dauntless Titan, but there's that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna guess that it's the father Titan, the leader. Actually, apparently, I was mistaken. Kronos is the leader and the youngest of the first generation of Titans, who are the descendants of Uranus and Gaia. I forgot that Uranus was father of the Titans. I used to know. I when I was a kid, I used to really think Greek mythology was cool. Apparently, I've forgotten everything I ever knew, though.
The problem with it is it sometimes contradicts itself, especially when you get like further and further back, where you start dealing with the like Ophion is like one of the OG, maybe helped create the world gods. So it's like it gets very confusing, and we don't have a lot of sources on a lot of this stuff. But
yeah, I feel like the Titans are like the prequels and soft reboots of Greek mythology, where people like they kind of ran out of stories they could tell about the main cast, and they were like, all right, we told too many stories about Zeus. All right, let's talk about the Titans tonight, and then they just make shit up.
Remember
and it's
the
the
Titans.
Same stories. Yeah, remember the Titans. All right, the discussion question this week was favorite jerkbag parahumans character. Delightful answers this week.
Yeah, this was a fun question. Good job, Matt. And we got some fun answers. Let me just reiterate before we go into these answers. These are not the opinions of Matt and I. So
don't yell at us.
Don't yell at us for the ones that say Taylor.
Yeah. So Dancing Anatolia says Chris is a wholly distilled Sylvester being the protagonist of Twig, with all the presumed sensitive facets buried deep inside. Well, yeah, Chris is a perfect answer to this, because like you kind of hate him, but also you really want to see more of him and you want him to redeem himself. So, yeah.
Man, you just making me want to read Twig.
I mean, I hope so. Yes.
Roundest Frog says side piece. She fucking sucks, but my God, is she fun. Like, I don't think we spent enough time on the fact that she like literally was around the campfire surrounded by children, like literally showing her ovaries to her boyfriend.
Yeah. Pretty funny.
Side piece.
It's funny because she kind of sucked, and then she was really mean to Victoria that one time, and then she crossed the line into really sucking.
True. And now she's here hanging out with everyone.
Yeah, right. Sarah Penguin says Chastity, who comes off pretty poorly at first due to how she treats Rain, but eventually this is recontextualized as being a behavior stemming from her own desperation and trauma. Yeah, I think we kind of like Chastity now, but I think All the Heartbroken could be on this list somewhere.
Right. Yeah, and I do like Chastity, and I distinctly remember like how afraid we were when Chastity was showing all this interest in Rain. I think we both did an uh-oh. But yeah, I mean, she's a complex character, and it's not to say that things with Heartbroken could still go bad. That could always happen. But yeah, I like Chastity a lot.
Yeah.
Hobo Demon says Prancer. Prancer is a manipulator, and he only cares about the people in his immediate circle and disregards everyone else. What makes him a jerkbag in particular is that he's willing to sacrifice other people he doesn't know to preserve his partying lifestyle.
Yeah.
True.
He's yet another guy who's fought on the side of the heroes, so he's earned a few points in our books, but he's not a great dude.
Yeah, and now he is a giant man.
Yep. Cal Subalu says probably Colin, whose whole thing is being a hero who's not always heroic. Even as he becomes a better person over the course of the story, he never quite stops being a jerk.
When you posed this question, my answer was Colin. So.
Well, several people agreed with you, as you can see.
Coinage also names Colin, noting that present-day Colin is very different from the way he was when we first met him. They also mention Kenzie. She's somebody who would probably be considered very toxic, especially when you consider how unrepentant constant violations of privacy boundaries, when she justifies it with, "Oh, that's just how I am." Yeah.
They said it, not us.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I mean,
Kenzie the jerkbag.
Kenzie the jerk. Yeah, you didn't hear it from us. Grekel Prime.
He's right though.
Yeah, I agree. Grekel Prime says, my favorite jerkbag in Parahumans is the character who is the most willing to retaliate to an act of aggression with supreme, overwhelming force, who only ever rarely accepted judgment for their mistakes, even when called out by an authority figure or the people closest to them. One who, at their most excessive, was willing to put the lives of innocents on the line to achieve their goals, and even was willing to kill them by their own hand. They conclude by saying, Taylor is my favorite jerk despite it all, which I think is how we all feel.
I agree. And so does Anti-Chris, who says, Taylor is the main jerk.
Yep. Placid Platypus says Cody and Kraus as a kind of self-perpetuating jerkbagness generator. They push each other's buttons in the worst ways, leading to two kids who would otherwise just be a bit obnoxious into becoming monsters.
That's a good answer. I like that. And you and I have complicated feelings about Kraus that we talked about for a very long time, but I would agree with the jerkbag moniker for him for sure.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I think it's a good point here that like Kraus could have just gone through his life being kind of a jerk, but the situation he was put in, particularly pitting him against Cody, made him a fucking asshole, which is good storytelling, I think.
Very good storytelling. Up next, we have Death of the Artist, who says that their favorite jerkbag is Victoria Dallin in the Glory Girl days. I was very uninterested in trying to sympathize with, and I'm understandable. Oh God, I can't read. I was very uninterested in trying to sympathize with and understand the pretty blonde privileged superhero that was so blasé with her powers that she maimed people on a semi-regular basis for seemingly no reason. They also called out Miss Militia as a fence sitter of the highest order and enumerate some instances where she seemingly fails to throw her weight around to rectify the problems in the PRT, instead choosing to apologize for those problems while doing nothing about them. Yeah, very strong anti-Miss Militia sentiments from the last section.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bit surprised. I thought she was one of those fixtures of the fandom where she's the best. Apparently not. Apparently we're wrong.
Yeah, and despite having a different read of the conversation than Death of the Artist and some other people had, I do think there were some pretty good points about Miss Militia made last week that disagreed with some of our stuff. I think people did a really good job arguing their points.
Yeah, there were a lot of different articulations of that. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Stelhex calls out Numberman, Hookline, and Kitchen Sink as being good candidates for this role.
It's so funny how many of these people are currently sitting around the fire with their heroes.
Yeah. I mean, Hookline and Kitchen Sink are a perfect example of like, they just suck, right? But like, they're not as bad. They're not as bad as a lot of the really bad people in this world, right? They're just they're just like thugs. They're just opportunistic thugs.
Yeah, it's like, you jerks.
Yeah.
Tsarwat names Pigot. She was fair. She successfully killed both Crawler and Mannequin, and she was sometimes a decent person to people, but she was also Pigot.
Yeah.
I love that. I remember I got shit for being like pro Pigot, but I don't remember being pro Pigot. I guess I was just trying to understand her.
Well, I mean, I think she's a fantastic character.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to be her friend. Like,
she's a total jerkbag.
and she's a badass too. But like, I think part of it is that like she's just so mean to um everyone who we like
Yep,
that it's hard to like her.
true.
Yeah,
But she's
yeah,
a badass.
she is. Awesome Toast says you gotta at least hand it to Cherish for having the gall to try to take over the Nine. Her conversation with Regent also humanizes her a lot, but she's also terrible. Yeah, she's. I mean, she's super terrible, but yeah, the story does humanize her, um, and overall, she ends up being kind of a favorite character just due to how kind of over the top she is as a character.
Yeah, and she's still presumably
Alive.
the bottom of the bay, hanging out in Earth Bat.
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah.
What's going on up there? Wolf Tamer 9 names Trickster, a character who first comes off as a fairly typical wisecracking, smug character with moments of occasional rudeness, who gradually shows himself to be a manipulative, aggressive asshole. Oh, Kraus.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think Trickster Kraus really is the perfect answer to this question, because it's like you kind of love to hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lost Man 138 says Amy, saying she's evil in a person you know way rather than an exaggerated fictional seeming way. They say, while very strong powers wise, Amy lacks charisma, creativity, and or strength of will. This is what makes her fascinating as an antagonist. I thought that was just a really good remark. Like, yeah, I mean, like normally a big bad, a big antagonist is going to be charismatic, creative, and strong and willful, and it's like, no, that's not her at all. That's not the direction we're going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were we? Sandwich says first
say.
Yeah. Was considering an action that would have killed thousands in order to kill Behemoth, making her very similar to the kind of cold utilitarian that we all love. Making him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Yeah, making him very similar to...
That's Matt's fault, not Sandwich's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, basically saying Fierce Say is this kind of cold-hearted, rational utilitarian, just like a lot like Taylor. I mean, that's why they were kind of put in that scene together.
Yeah. He was just trying to do a spirit bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, everyone. I watched an anime.
They'll never stop, Scott. Watson gives Lord of Loss, a guy with a very distorted perspective who isn't really trying to hurt anybody. In particular, it's just that his worldview is really messed up. I mean, yeah, I think their answer was actually a bit more articulated than what I summarized here. But Lord of Loss being a jerk but not a horrible monster, I think qualifies definitely.
Yeah. I liked him as a character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, we have DataSnake69, who says Shortcut is an example of a character I like reading about because they're such a dickhead. And Lisa is a character I like even though they can be a real jerk sometimes. Shortcut's weird grudge against Victoria comes off as comedic, and he's fun to laugh at. Lisa can be spectacularly unpleasant when she's in a bad mood, but she also reaches out to isolated and hurt young people. She's the jerk with a heart of gold. I like that answer a whole lot.
Yeah, I like that they kind of gave a little bit of a breakdown of the kinds of jerk characters that we like in fiction, and there really are too. They're the ones you love to hate, and then there are the ones who, well, yeah, like Lisa, who you just love, but she's a jerk.
Yep.
All right, next week's discussion question. So I noticed Wildbow has this question that he has asked in a few different contexts, and it is basically of the form, who's your favorite character who you would predict would be in very few other people's top 10?
Yeah, favorite Parahumans character. Right?
Yeah, usually, I mean, I've seen him ask this about other things, but I want to ask this to you fine people about Parahumans characters.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect week for it because we have this huge... I haven't counted how many people are around this fire, but there's a lot. So we have this big list of characters around this fire. I would guess a lot of people's favorite character that would not appear in the top 10 would be people around this fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody's answers. This is kind of a type of question that I like, where people just get to kind of gush about something they love.
Yeah, and it's something they love that is not a character that people talk about as much.
Yeah,
Because of the nature of the question. That's why I think it's such a genius question, and why we shamelessly stole it from the author of this book.
Yes. Right. Now we're outsourcing not only the text but the discussion questions to Wildbow.
Could he just prep the analysis too, and then we just read it?
Right. If you could just share your notes with us, Wildbow. All right, that's all we got for you this week on We've Got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading.
You can reach out to us via our email account at gotwormpod@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account at gotwormpod. That Twitter account is also where I do my weekly readings of the chapters. This week is going to be kind of weird with that because it's Thanksgiving. Maybe I'll try to read one of the chapters tomorrow. Maybe I'll do that.
Okay. Let's see.
My personal Twitter is at ScottDaily85, and Matt's is at Moradinamail. Did I do it right?
You did, yeah.
I nailed it.
If you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And as always, you can find all the shows we do over at our website, doofmedia.com. That's where you can find Media MD. That's what I'm going to talk about this week because they have an episode coming out this Thursday on Thanksgiving Day because they're Australians, talking about the sitcom New Girl. And I've got a sneak preview from this podcast, Matt, because I'm important, I guess. There was a mixed reaction amongst our Australian friends to this show. So if you've ever seen New Girl or you just want to listen to some people talk about it, on a show that is much, much shorter than ours. I don't know how they do it. Check out Media MD. You can see all their past episodes on our website and our YouTube page.
Yeah, mixed reactions are very dramatic.
They are.
So it's bound to be a dramatic podcast.
Indeed.
Also, the Do the Right Thing words for this coming week are hellish, numerous, dim, dashing. You know what to do, folks. Get over there.
I'm going to be a big old hypocrite because I've never done the right thing, but have you done the right thing? And if the answer is no, why not?
I've done it every week since I became aware of its existence.
Well, good for you. Good for
thank
you.
Thank you for your earnest compliment there.
I'm going to give you a pat on the shoulder armor like Victoria does.
Yeah, and I don't feel it at all and feel even worse now. If you want to support any of these shows, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/doofmedia. You can donate $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. Supporting us on Patreon gives you tons of great bonuses like voting in our quarterly fan art costume contests, hangout sessions, access to live streams of our recording sessions, and the excellent Discord chat.
We also have some bonus content we're trying to release every month. Some just random stuff. Just random bonus stuff that we're doing. Sometimes it's writing. Sometimes it's Elliot playing Alien Isolation in his VR headset. Just random stuff. So tons of cool stuff you can get.
If people missed it, we did the Chuck Tingle RPG last month. So that was a thing.
Yeah, and we haven't announced what we're doing in December yet, but it's going to be very fun.
Good. And as always, of course, go over to patreon.com/Wildbow and donate to him as well. It is his world. We are just playing in it.
It is his world, his discussion questions.
Yeah. It's his world for a while longer until it just looks like a black void. And then I guess it's something else. This week, special thanks to new patrons, Bidoof AC and Doof Dancer Niels F. We really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's Thanksgiving this week here in the U.S., and we are thankful for each and every one of you guys. So thank you, AC, thank you, Niels, and thank you everyone else who supports us financially, but also the people that just support us
spiritually,
eerily,
orally.
Yeah. Those of you that cannot afford to donate right now, that is, of course, absolutely okay. Those of you that help us out by downloading, by sharing, by leaving us rating and reviews, by doing all of those things at the same time while spinning in a circle and rubbing your tummy and patting your head. Thank you. Thank you.
Why did they make the word for hearing and the word for seeing sound almost the same, orally and orally? What idiots. Anyway, that's all we have for you this week. Next week, we continue to suffer from Arc 18 radiation.
Jesus, man.
All right.
I hit stop. Ooh, my voice was dying there at the end. Perfect timing.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Good episode.
Yeah.
I was happy with how that one turned out. I hope you guys liked it.
Yeah. Time to go look at the chat and see if everyone was just like, the fuck are you saying?
Nobody said that. There was one moment where Wildbow did like a side-eye thing, and because of the delay, I didn't know what he was specifically referring to, and I'm insanely curious.
What was he referring to? Now I have to know.
I don't know.
Just come on, Wildbow. I left a bag of groceries at the store today, and now you give me the side eye. That's not even the worst thing that happened today. The worst thing that happened today is I ordered a package like 2 weeks ago from Amazon, and then apparently it was like brought to my house and then brought to fucking Walgreens for some reason, and I wasn't told about this until after Walgreens had already sent it back, and I like at no point did anyone inform me of anything happening, and I'm just like, okay, so I just don't get that package, I guess. That's cool.
What? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why? What?
Yeah.
Oh, if you don't remember offhand, Wildbow, you do not need to do that now.
Yeah, it's
We'll live.
it's fine. I mean, I won't be able to sleep tonight, but
Stop it, Matt. Stop it.
no, I'm joking. It's fine. I'm gonna go read all the stuff now.
My AC came on at the very beginning of the episode. That was fun.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Don't worry, my microphone did.
Mythology is the original superhero comics. I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pigo. Yeah, Pigo's the best. Why do we park on a driveway but drive on a parkway?
Sometimes I say clearly Wildbow was doing X just because I think it's fun.
Usually Usually it's more of a tongue-in-cheek thing. I hope.
I can share the script. That's fine. Let me just view.
But we probably didn't actually have that in the script though. So.
No, yeah, that's the problem. Is so much of this is not actually what we say.
Is it going to let you link that?
It should, yeah.
I like this shirt. Thank you.
It's a 2 hour ago comment.
It's not good. That you actually complimented it. But.
It's a good I mean, assuming if he has the same shirt, then he likes the shirt. I hope it wasn't a, hey, I have that shirt. It's fucking awful.
Yeah. It's my worst shirt.
I wondered what other idiot would buy this shirt, and now I know. It was you.
And you're wearing it.
Did you put your...
I did.
Thanks, David. I just saw that. Sorry. Mythology is the original. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see that we weren't the only ones that didn't make that shards of glass mirror connection thing.
Yeah.
It makes me feel better. Thank you, guys.
It wasn't just, that's too obvious to even mention.
Mm-hmm. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Oh, back to the old StarCraft. I see no more Fortnite.
Yeah, I had like the best match ever. It was going long, and so I had to like run out into the open and get shot because otherwise I would have been late to this. But I killed 4 people. I killed an entire enemy squad single-handedly. It's pretty epic.
I mean, you know
It's
what
like,
that means, though. You've peaked.
yeah, I
You
mean,
should just
definitely.
quit now.
I mean, the reason this isn't like the reason I'm sharing it is that I'm like really bad at FPSs. So if I actually did something that good, it's like this is like the best I've ever done at an FPS in my life.
Oh yeah,
Like just me killing 4 people in a single game is an amazing accomplishment for me.
makes sense. Yeah, I'm very bad at them too. So we got a comment on one of our videos on YouTube while we were recording that was like, "This is the worst intro you guys have ever done." And I thought it was like, for a second there, I was like, "Is that for the one we just did?" I was like, I don't actually know which one he's referring to.
Was I wonder if it was like it was like a fuck you tone or was it like a humorous tone? I'm not
I think it was humorous. It's for Arc 5, Part 3.
okay.
That is easily the worst intro y'all have done so far. It feels like like that's a um, little tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, Tasawa. You should challenge Athena to a weaving contest.
Wait, am I not seeing the chat?
It's in.
Oh.
They did it in the Discord. Every time I hear the word weavers, I think about um, that movie. You know what I'm talking about. The one where they curve the bullet.
I do. The one with that one actor.
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
You know why I remember that movie?
Mr. Split. Why?
Because we turned it on and the thing at the beginning appeared, like the message was talking about weavers at the just the white text on black background, and
Yeah.
my girlfriend at the time sees that and goes, "Ugh, weavers," and I just thought it was hilarious that like the thing that upset her was that it was going to be about weaving.
It's a rather extreme reaction.
It really is to weavers. Like we were like, what? So every time I hear the word weavers in my head, it goes, ugh,
Weavers.
weavers.
That's great.
I also hear an old Irish folk song that my dad used to play about weavers. Those are the two reactions my head has. Because my dad had a phase in his life where he got really into the Clancy brothers and like listened to a lot of Irish folk music.
Weavers.
Get out of here, chapter 4. I haven't read you yet. I think 17.z needs change from assorted to jerk bags.
Yeah. Jerk bags.
Yeah.
Definitely. I thought that's what it was.
No,
I mean, it's not.
Just says assorted.
Oh. Huh.
It can be changed to assorted jerk bags. Maybe there's not enough space for that.
Mm. Mm.
Hey Matt, I've been playing this this Star Wars game. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's parts of it that are not good, but I'm enjoying it.
Which one? The
new
blah, blah,
one,
blah.
Fallen Order.
Yes.
Was that your attempt of just saying words until I said the name of the game?
Yeah. Yeah. I assumed if I'd open my mouth, then it would just come out.
Sure.
Oh fuck. Oh shit. This is bad. This is real bad.
Are you losing already?
Well, I'm not losing. Oh shit. Oh fuck.
Good. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's real bad. That's just awful.
One.
Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of Perry.
Hey Matt, do you ever dream in the intros to our podcasts?
Do I ever have a dream about them or what?
I feel like the words we start our podcast with are so ingrained in our heads now.
Did you ever hear that thing that somebody made where they just overlaid all of the beginnings of our podcasts over each other? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, that was terrifying.
And if I were a Titan, my name would be Dolus, god of deception.
And mine would be Aphrodite,
What?
goddess of containment foam.
How?
Aphros actually means foam. It's from the foam of Uranus's severed genitals when they were thrown in the sea by his son Cronus.
Can you just start the show?
Look it up. This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive. What did you think of these two chapters?
Well, I mean, great.
Thank you.
Why did they make the word for hearing and the word for seeing sound almost the same, orally and orally? What idiots. Anyway, that's all we have for you this week. Next week, we continue to suffer from Arc 18 radiation.
We deserve that, TM. Thank you. They say clearly this is the worst intro. As I just replayed the intro.
Which one was it?
They were talking about the one that we just did.
Oh.
I haven't listened to Arc 5 Part 3. That was a very, very long time ago. There's no way I remember that.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Matt, the rebooting before we start idea has paid off in spades.
Excellent.
At least I think. Let me just go to a random spot.
Yeah.
Man, you just making me want to read Twig.
I mean, I hope so. Yes.
Roundest Frog says, "Yep, that's perfect. That's perfect."
Okay, that's all we have for you this week. Next week, we continue to suffer from Arc 18 radiation.
Jesus. Yeah, Matt.
Did I say I meant talking and hearing?
That's gonna look stupid on the podcast. I should definitely cut it out.
Just dub it over with yourself saying talking.
The word for hearing and the word for seeing sound almost the same, orally and orally.
Orally and orally.
Anyway, that's all we have for you this week. Next week, we continue to suffer from Arc 18 radiation.
The perfect part is...
I did that on purpose. It was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, the perfect part is you hear me laughing in there, and I'm just going to pretend that the reason I was laughing was because I knew you got it wrong and didn't say anything.
Sounds good.
It's very on brand for me.
Yeah.
Actually, what it is on brand for you.
It's revenge. You're just getting revenge.
Just perpetual revenge.
That's what this podcast is all about.
Mm-hmm.
You and me trying to just like get each other for perceived slight.
Yep.
this arc was going to be a long and complex plan toward the end. So I was a bit surprised that there wasn't like a touching base. Exactly. Yeah. And,
got him.
And the people who we don't care about just kind of wander off. So
True. That's true.
yeah, I mean, let's get into this. Trying to plan. Yep, that's exactly right. Gotta kill all these people to save these kids that I like, and that's what pushed it over for her. Yep, good point. That's horrible. Yeah, I mean, let's move on to the next chapter because we pretty much just segue smoothly into it story-wise. So 18.3.
Sure.
And we resume with the team using Kin's next chapter because we pretty much just segue smoothly into it story-wise. So 18.3. And we resume with the team using 18.3.
So
Don't yell at us.
don't yell at us for the ones
Sure. Delightful answers is
sources on a lot of the stuff, but
and
remember
it's the same
Titans.
stories. Yeah, remember the Titans. All right, discussion question.
You can't break a problem.
Yeah.
And how can we, is the solution to help super glue them back together? Is there a way to super glue them back together without killing all of us? That is the question.
All of the king's horses and all the king's. I did do it through the looking glass. Like I tried to find more connections recently.
Yeah. So this is some anime shit. And I'm not saying that in a way.
So yeah, let's do that name game that you're talking about.
Sure. Let's talk about some Greek mythology.
Let's do that name game.
Yeah. Yay. My last podcast of the week. Wait, that's not true. I still have to edit the book club together, and we're doing Korra on Friday.
So you're getting there though.
Mm-hmm. Michael is in town this week.
Cool.
And he's like, "You want to hang out?" And I was like, "Sure." I'm working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have podcast on Thursday and Friday night, or Tuesday and Friday night, and my grandparents are coming over Wednesday night. And I was like, "But other than that,"
Wide open.
And he was basically like, "So I'll see you in December." The one day that would have definitely worked for me was Saturday, and he's leaving Friday. So, Oh well, not this time. Such is life.
Such is life.
I would ask what you guys are doing for Thanksgiving, but I think we have a lot of people that don't live in the U.S. on the stream, so they're going to say nothing. One of our guys in my group works on the compliance team, and he's like in charge of the compliance for all our Latin American hospitals. And they obviously do not celebrate Thanksgiving in Chile and Mexico. So he has to work on Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
But he lives here. And so like everyone he knows is all doing Thanksgiving. And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm going to work." And our office is closed. So he's I guess working from home. Matt, which one are you in this whole thing? Are you the Terran or are you the Protoss?
Well, it's 4v4.
Oh, okay.
I'm one of the Protosses.
Because I was curious as to why those two people were not attacking each other.
Yes, I like to do 4v4 when I don't want to really like try.
Good night to Sarawat.
Yeah, good night.
Ugh. That sucks, Wildbow. Sorry to hear. I don't think I have any of my family that is like has gone like crazy hardcore right wing stuff. I mean, maybe. I definitely have uncles that definitely voted Trump, but most of them have been like, "Hey, he seems like a dumbass."
I mean, I have a lot of family members who like him, but they just don't talk about it much.
Right.
So
Yeah. It might be less they like him that they voted for him. Ah, 5-star. That does suck. That does suck. I mean, it sucks generally, but it double sucks because no more delicious food.
yeah.
Did I tell you what my mother is doing?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
This is another Scott's mom story. So we're doing Thanksgiving at my in-laws this year. We take turns. So like next year we'll do Thanksgiving at my place, Christmas at my in-laws, and this year vice versa. And so we're going to my parents on Saturday because we're not spending Thanksgiving there, so we still wanted to see family, so we're going there. And my cousin's going to be in town. And my mom goes something to the effect of, so I'm going to cook prime rib on Saturday because I don't want to cook another turkey. And my response is, what? We're not just going to do leftovers? And she goes, no, your cousin doesn't want leftovers.
What?
And I just wanted to be like, Mom, yeah, he definitely either does or does not care.
I think everyone just does leftover the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 days after, but yeah, basically the day after Thanksgiving. And I was like, you're gonna cook a whole nother huge meal? Yeah. Why though? Don't do that. Let's just eat leftovers. There's definitely gonna be leftovers. So she's gonna cook a whole meal. It's gonna be delicious, I'm sure, but I just don't get it. Yeah, I mean it is sweet. That's like she just always goes above and beyond. Yeah, she probably is gonna get herself all frazzled. And it's gonna be like, I love you so much, Mom. You do not need to do that. I can't wait to tell my cousin because I don't even think he knows. I guarantee you, he's like, yeah, we'll just eat some leftovers. It'll be good. Come on, only 30. Why am I not prepping the release while I'm waiting for this to mix down? It's like I don't know how to do podcasts. I think Wildbow was right. We should have done higher than top 10. There's so many characters in this story.
Yeah.
Oh well, too late. I think it'll still be an interesting answer.
Start over.
Because, like, favorite Parahumans character is you're going to get a lot of things. Favorite Parahumans character where you're trying to think of someone that other people might not like as much is totally different.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a great question.
We're doing so well.
Now you're going to lose? Bummer.
I'm not sure. I got wiped out, but overall, I think our team is ahead.
That's good. You can probably do another mass deletion of your audio files.
Yeah, I think it needs to be cleaned up.
We didn't talk about what radiation could mean. We should do
Oh, yeah.
that at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do it eventually.
I have some ideas. I haven't heard back from that that person I asked about the.
All right.
Yeah. I'm wondering how long I should wait before I start looking for someone else. It's been a week. Guess I could wait a little bit longer. We've got plenty of time. using as to Shay, like, look how export almost done. Almost done. What time is it? It's 11. Let's see if Elise is still awake. She's like, if you finish by 11:30, would you want to watch a movie? And I was like, who do you think you are that you're gonna be able to stay up that late? She gets so ambitious when she's on break. That's adorable.
Well, my sleep schedule's definitely started rotating already, and I've had like one day off, so I know the feeling.
I am working a half day tomorrow.
It's not the most responsible thing I've ever done, but today I was basically like, well, it's really snowy out. I think I'm calling it. I just stayed home. It wasn't like a premeditated vacation day. It was like it's Thanksgiving week. There's 2 feet of snow on my driveway. Gonna stay home. Gonna just not work.
Thanks, Wildbow. I forget that people can see my ridiculous drive names when I'm working on this stuff. New big dick. It's my drive. It's big. It has a lot of space. It's got girth. Just waiting on this bar to go to full. And then I can go to bed. Or watch an entire movie.
My family's coming for Christmas, but I'm not really doing anything for Thanksgiving. I think I'll just have one of the kids. So pretty laid back as holidays go.
That's good. Oh, good to hear you're getting some chill time though. That's important.
Yeah. Are you going to be traveling, Wildbow, or are you going to be visiting people? Are they going to be visiting you? I mean, hey, you know how I get.
I do.
I just said orally means seeing, so.
Yeah, and like 2,000 people are going to hear it.
Yeah. No, nobody listens to the end.
That's true. That's sadly true. Cool. That's a fair amount of travel. I'm going to Disney World. Oh yeah. Are we gonna be good? I think we're gonna be good. Yeah, because that's the core episode is when I'll be gone. So yeah, we'll be good. Okay. Whew. I remember we planned this. I just forget, and then I'm like, oh shit. Schedule. Boop. Yay! It's done. We did it.
I might try to cook, but I also know there's this one restaurant that I've gone to before for Thanksgiving when I was like literally living in a hotel, and it was nice. And if I'm just gonna have one kid, then it might be both nicer and easier to just go there.
Why only one kid? You said this, but I zoned out. Sorry.
Well, their mom's taking them to like the mountains for like a snowboarding weekend.
Oh, so
you have
the tiny one.
I have the tiny one, yeah.
That'll be fun for them. Have they ever done that before?
They haven't, no. And it'll also be nice to have one-on-one time with the tiny one. So.
Yeah. The youngest gets the least amount of individual attention. It's true.
Yeah. I try to be proactive about balancing it, though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
sure.
yeah. By kind of by the natural dynamics, it ends up a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually going to only be in Disney World for like 1 day. So my family's going for like a week and a half, and my wife and I were like, we can't do that. So we're going for like 4 days, but we're only going for one Disney day because they're going to Universal Studios after that. And so we're going to do 2 days at Universal Studios. Because I haven't been there in a long time. Hey, you won!
Yeah, we won. It was mainly like the last person just took forever to actually surrender.
Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, okay. I think that's going to do it.
Yep.
I just closed the thing, though. I need to shut off the stream because they changed the way streams work now. How do I get back to my...
Did they change it again? Oh, God.
They did. How do I get back to my... I literally don't know how to get back to my live stream. If I close it, what does it do? Oh, live now. Okay. Yes, click. Yes, okay. Okay, cool. We did it. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Yeah, everything will be back to normal next week. I forgot this is a shorter holiday. Okay. Yeah. We'll see you all next week. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Later.
Bye.